Welcome to tonight's Freaky Friday with me, one of your hosts for this evening, Kev Baker, from The Kev Baker Show. I'm joined tonight by Big Marty from The Kev Baker Show as well. And we have got our two friends from over the pond. What a woo crew we have tonight. We've got Joa over on the East Coast, and also on the East Coast of America, we've got the man, the myth, the beard. Popeye is back for tonight's very special Freaky Friday. And this is, of course, the anniversary of 9/11. So guess what? We're going to be going into that tonight. We're going to be joined by Aaron and Melissa Dykes later on in the show for a little bit of time woo. Guys, this is shaping up to be one hell of a show. So, first of all, let me come to Joa. How you doing, man?
Oh, man. What a week.
You see how I fixed the glitch there, though? That was the best way to do it.
Yeah, I'm just glad it's Freaky Friday, because it's our favorite time of the week.
It's everyone's favourite time of the week, even with you sounding like something out of the Terminator, Joe. But we will persevere. Marty, how are you doing, man? Please tell me you're on the same timeline as me and not 10 seconds behind me.
I really hope so. Can you hear me? I'm coming through okay?
You are loud and clear coming through the CERN hole. Absolutely fantastic. You looking forward to tonight, man?
Yeah, absolutely. I really am looking forward to Freaky Friday. I can't always make them all, but I am here since it is this special anniversary of that dreadful day, September 11, 2001, 14 years since. I know we've touched on it for the last couple of days, and we will touch on it a little tonight. I'm sure we will.
Well, Marty, before I get to tonight's final Woo Crew member, somebody that we both take much education from, we respect greatly. But before I do go there, right, listen to this one, man, because you mentioned the work that we've been doing, Popeye's been doing, and TFR, on the whole, especially with Rebekah Roth, have been doing in relation to 9/11, right? So I'm in work today, some guy turns up, bit of a suit on, and just says, "You, want a word with you?" Telling you, Marty, I thought I was off to Gitmo, dude. I thought I was getting black bagged. Ooh. Long story short, we had an architect listening in to last night's show who felt compelled to come and thank me on behalf of you and Luke as well for the show that we put on, reference 9/11, and all of the fellow hosts and researchers that we bring on to TFR on the whole. Now, if that's
so not... he was in Scotland. He came to you.
Yes, he was working just near the retail park, and he actually came to the office. He's probably listening.
He came to your mall?
Yes, he did, man. He came and seen the mall cop, dude.
Oh, my God. Your alter ego.
I know, exactly. He came to see Blart Baker. But anyway, the final one of the Woo Crew tonight, Popeye. Big man, what a show last night, and we're set to do it all again tonight.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Well, there it is, the dulcet tones of the man.
Wow, it's been a while since I've been here. Hi, Joe. You sound, your audio sounds as clear as always.
Oh, yeah. No, it's better now. I just had to take care of business. You can't have multiple streaming going on with my squirrels because you overtax the squirrels. Can't do it.
So if you're using Skype and someone else is using the internet in general, just to
forget it.
Send anything. Done.
My goose is proverbially cooked. Yes, absolutely. So with that said, I think I've took care of business.
Well, you know what, Joe? I was feeling a bit daft today, and I thought I'll wind up the listeners, see if I'll get a bit of a reaction. And I called them Wookiees because they come and they tune in and they listen to the woo that we provide, right? Get this. They absolutely loved it. So, from now on, the listeners out there, especially the ones in the chat room, will now commonly be referred to as the Wookiees. How's that sound, Joe?
Oh, dude, how perfect is that?
You can't do shit like that.
No, you most certainly can't. Now, did you make that up yourself?
Well, I just checked that, and the Wookiees are actually a fictional species of intelligent bipeds from the planet Kashwak in the south.
I can't believe you're on the Freaky Friday show and you had to check that up. That should be common knowledge what the Wookiees were.
I just wanted to know if it was unique, we could actually phrase it, but oh no.
So I assure you, there are 66 very unique Wookiees sitting in the chat right now. So I'll head right on over to there, give them a quick shout out. We have got Twit to Wookie. We've got AI, Alpha Omega, Arc Klingon, As I Am, Bag of Chips, Balder Bags, Biozombie, Blue Bonnet Babe, Bridgewater, Cameron's a Gimp, Seb, Check, Den, DJ, do you want to know? Dr. Blues, Dr. Greenbud. Could do with some Greenbud tonight. Evil 2, Flan O'Brien, Fliptown, George Boy, Gergs, Hugh, Ian. We've got Iferian, Itala, Keb, Lucky One, Marty, myself. We've got Moondrop, Motown, Mr., Mystical, Nancy, North of South, Not a Criminal, Paladin, Penelope, Papa Bear. We've got Quebec, Rally Truther, Sabre, Scottish John, Screwed, Silver, Smug, Sonia Van Gelder, coming from all the way down under. Fantastic stuff. We've got Sabrosa, Sid, Texan, The Resurrection, Time Lord, Tramp's Pocket, Personals, Unscripted, Utah Prepper, Vexstar, the one and only Wookiee Nation in the chat room. Love it. Worried Sheep, down the Popeye, up the Popeye, through his rabbit hole. Who knows? Joe Joseph, and you know what? You know what's quite startling there, guys? You've got Worried Sheep followed by Popeye and Joe Joseph. No wonder it's looking worried with you two queuing up behind it.
That's right. Cue the Velcro gloves, please.
I'm sorry, but Tramp's Pocket is still...
That's why I laugh, Popeye. You love that name, don't you?
Dude, every time I hear it. Whoever uses that name in the chat, you rock.
Now listen, you might be thinking this is a very serious day, and indeed it is, because 14 years ago we all know what happened. But there's no harm in us maybe keeping it a little lighter tonight, because I've been looking at the news all day, and the miserable, depressing stuff isn't far to seek. We've got the mainstream propaganda been throwing at us from that day. So tonight, while we're laying out some hard truths and some woo, I think you'll agree it's probably all right that we can have a laugh as well. And that's what makes TFR different. And I think that's what makes all of you keep coming back. But Popeye, I'm going to come to you first, because your website in itself is a wealth of knowledge on that day. Last night...
Oh, wait, whoa. Easy on the ego, will you please? Because you know how he gets when you start talking about the website.
I have to massage it. I have to keep him happy, dude. Shh. But Popeye, like myself, I was listening to you last night, and you were almost agag at the fact that Rebekah was laying out new truth bombs 14 years on. And that, along with everything else right now, what's your thoughts 14 years on, Pop?
Well, there's still new evidence to be learned every day about that event. That event was huge, dude. What happened that day wasn't as simple as 19 morons being directed by another moron in a cave with a satellite phone and a 1999 Dell laptop. Dude, it's a Dell. That guy. That system that they were, dude, it's a Dell, right? Remember that moron? Yeah. So a 1990s, maybe 2000 Dell laptop and a sat phone. And he defeated...
Yeah, wasn't that like the Jared of the 90s?
Yes.
Basically.
It's a Dell kid, right. And like, that's what bin Laden was using, some piece of crap laptop back then and a satellite phone. People are like, well, you could do that with your smartphone nowadays. Yeah, 14 years later.
Yeah. No, you're right. You needed like an Iridium phone to do it then.
Dude, no. From the caves, from the Tora Bora Mountains? Really? You can't,
because,
like,
you get good sat signal from a cave.
I was going to tell you, like, you're the radio guy, Joe.
Yeah, because going through rock is always the best thing for trying to get line of sight on a satellite.
Let me ask you a question. If you were going to try to penetrate the United States, right, their defenses, their military, and do what they did, and hope to pull off hitting 75% of your targets with military-style precision, I may add, would you be like taking a chance on using a piece of crap sat phone and your, again, like 1999 Dell laptop from a cave?
Well, Popeye, there's another way of looking at it. I mean, how much money have NORAD just spent to go into their version of Tora Bora so that none of the signals get out?
Well, you see, There you go. They could have spent nothing and just moved into Bin Laden's old hangout.
There you go. That's what yeah, right. So,
Cobra Command.
So let me just put my psychoanalytical hat on here for a
Wait a
second.
minute, can we just call him Tim Osmond from now on? Can we?
Sure.
We'll just call him Timmy.
Timmy. I'll do. Timmy, cool.
So Timmy, right? So from a psychological perspective, Laban, back in the 19th century, covered this, especially with the crowd. He wrote a book called The Crowd, A Study of the Popular Mind, which I was able to get through about 25 pages of on the plane because it was like, damn, I just had to stop and take in notes and highlight and everything else because I'm telling you, this was the playbook or part of the library, if you will, that people like Mussolini and Hitler used to influence the masses, along with like Bernays' propaganda and crystallizing public opinion. This is one of those lesser known books that kind of everybody overlooks, but except for the powers that shouldn't be. They all read this. And there's a quote in here that's very heavy, if you will. And it's, the masses have never thirsted after truth. Whoever can supply them with illusions is easily their master. Whoever attempts to destroy their illusions is always their victim. So, I mean, this was 19th century when they were just kind of figuring out that collectivist mindset that, you know, that 75% go with the flow. That basically you being the, you know, whatever, the person can set this illusion in people's heads and manifest it as reality. And so that's what's happened with 9/11 is they gave us that illusion. Here it is, not what actually happened, but we'll give you the official story. And they did it with Kennedy, you know, and many other events as well. And I hate to say the word Kennedy with Popeye in the room because that in and of itself, we could do a 24-hour broadcast and not even scratch the surface.
Well, both events have a lot in common.
Sure.
Just the fact that, like, people, it's like when people ask me, well, who killed Kennedy, Popeye? It's not a simple answer. The question is a simple question. The answer is not that simple. It's the same thing with 9/11. Well, who did 9/11? It's not really who, because it's a conglomerate of different groups and agencies working together to make it happen. Now, you could question why all these people would work. Compartmentalization. They do what they're told. It's the people at the very tippy top that you need. That
the maestros.
Yes, they're the ones that they're the ones that understand the real agenda, and then they just play each person.
Exactly. You know, it's kind of like a symphony orchestra, Popeye, where, you know, the maestro, he has all the music. He has everything. It's in entirety. But if you're a freaking cello player, you have the same sheet music as a guy playing the timpanis, nor would you want to because it would confuse the crap out of you. So you just simply have your sheet music for your part of that symphony. Same difference, you know?
Well, when you talked about just now how they even said back then that they can literally make you manifest whatever reality they want you to.
Sure.
That's true. We know now, and everybody here listening to this broadcast knows about quantum physics. I know Quantum Kev and myself have gone over quantum physics, not only here, but on our shows, respectively, bazillions of times. Okay, we've done many of episodes about it. So,
is bazillion an actual number?
Probably
only
not.
if you observe it.
Okay,
right, see, there you go, Quantum Kev. There you go, Kev. Kev with the quantum one-liners. I love it. So if we know that we manifest our own reality, they've known that for a very long time. Why do you think on 9/11, why do you ever notice before 9/11, the 2 weeks preceding, it could be sunshine and rainbows for months. Nothing could be going on that's bad. There could be happiness all over the world. And I guarantee you 2 weeks before 9/11, the doom starts to roll in. You know, Fox News with their breaking news crap that comes up, you know, on the screen, the graphics and the sound. Dun, dun, dun. We're getting intel from the Pentagon. Really? You're getting intel from the Pentagon? So you're saying the Pentagon's just handing you propaganda? Is that what's going on, Fox News? Because that would be a truthful thing. But they'll come in. Dun, dun. Oh, my God. ISIS set to attack America. Ladies and gentlemen, pull your heads out of your butts for a second if you actually believe that. I know most of you listening don't, but there are a few people out there that They buy into the conservative side of things. People I know,
A few.
And they're like, Joe, I'm sure you've heard them. They're like, man, if ISIS comes over here, I'm going to kick their ass. Dude, stop it. ISIS isn't going to come over here. Okay, the Foot Clan is not going to come over here 10,000 strong and try to invade.
Exactly. Okay. And if they do for any particular reason, it's because they were let over here. Let's be real.
And they'll get their asses handed to them.
Well, but still, even if that was the case, they were let in. Just like Quantum Kev could get about a half an hour of sun, and he would look like a Mexican refugee coming over the border if he did such a thing. You know what I mean? So it's
don't
possible.
tempt me, Joe. Don't tempt me.
Well, I'm just saying, if he dresses up like Bin Laden and tries to cross the Mexican border into Texas, he should be fine, apparently.
Oh, he'll be more than fine, right? Exactly.
It's been done already, so... I mean, what's his name? The dude, the Project Veritas dude.
Oh, yeah, the guy that just crapped all over Clinton.
Isn't he the one that dressed up like Bin Laden a couple months back and walked?
He did, but in a bad costume too, bad. But still, it was enough. I mean, from a distance, you'd be like, "Whoa, what the hell?"
But the point is, like, really, somebody dressed like Bin Laden can just stroll across.
Well, we said quantum, so throughout this show, I'm going to materialize and dematerialize guests throughout, okay? And coming up after the break, we've got a little surprise guest coming up. Very, very much along the 9/11 lines, guys. Could be one heck of a show. But I'll come to Marty now, because Marty, we done this show last night. We had Luke, we were going over some of the numbers and things like that. We can't do it half the justice that somebody like... What was happening now?
History? I'll send it to you. Times of Israel just put it out.
What's that, Joe?
Wow. Marty, I apologize for that, but I just kind of like looked at... Here I was, right? I'm just like, what's this sandstorm thing? I was like, what?
That's been going for a week, dude.
I know, but I didn't know that. I'm just looking at it now. I'm like, whoa. Wow, that's interesting. Sorry, it was one of those things where you're just like, oh. Now, back to you, Marty.
Thanks for that, Joe. As you were saying, Kev, I think you were talking about the whole numbers thing and the numerology behind 9/11 and the aspects of it being a mega occult ritual, which I know Popeye and Mark Passio have covered in great detail. And I don't know, that leads me to believe that not only was 9/11 used for so many different reasons, it's also part of a big psyop. Part of a trauma-based, mind-controlled event to really change the minds of so many people and justify all the stuff that came after it.
And that's what I've been watching today, Marty. It's been almost a reaffirming of all the trigger words, the terror, 9/11, Twin Towers, and that mainstream media. It's almost like this time every year they give us the new mind wash to set us up for the next 12 months ahead, and yet more wars and killing in the name of that day. A day that was a false flag.
Yeah, definitely a false flag. There's enough evidence out there to prove that alone without going down some of the rabbit holes. And it's absolutely amazing to me that people still haven't got it yet. I mean, just this propaganda that's still being put out there. You've had the Jerusalem Post 6 hours ago saying that Netanyahu vows to prevail against militant Islam in the 9/11 tribute. Jewish press there reporting that Israel remains committed to fighting the evil behind the attacks of 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
good we have their support, isn't it, Marty?
It really is. It really is. But
do you feel safer?
No.
Well, at least you're honest. Because I don't. When you say that kind of stuff, it's like, why? Why even say it? I guess because it reinforces that, the United States Israel kumbaya relationship. I don't know. I don't like it. Not one bit, Marty.
Crazy.
What you see going on, what you mentioned, Marty, is what I was talking about, where 2 weeks preceding 9/11, they start to, oh my God, they're coming for you. Well, that's accessing the trauma that they created in our brains collectively as a nation, and that they have created in all the newer, younger generations' brains, during the school year when they teach them about 9/11, and they tell them things like, oh, we were attacked by people from Afghanistan because they hate us and they hate our way of life. When, well, if you believe the official story, they weren't even from Afghanistan. They were Saudis hanging out in Afghanistan. So you already failed with even your official line of propaganda crap. It's trauma-based mind control. It's part of that ritual. Mark and I talked about it when we did the Occult 9/11 show. In order to get away with the things that they do, right, one of the things they do is they access that fear every year, and they renew that in people. It's almost like once a year they have to. And a lot of times they line things up around that time. Like last year, remember, nobody wanted to bomb Syria. Nobody wanted to do any of that. And then all of a sudden, a couple weeks before 9/11, all the beheading videos came out. The Anunnaki ISIS guys were out on the beach supposedly beheading people, right? And then what happened? What happened to all that? All that went away after 9/11. All that fear porn kind of backed off a little bit after 9/11. But by that time, what was it, September 10th, I believe? September 10th or September 9th of last year when we started bombing Syria, right? And everybody was all scared. Oh, my God, we're going to be attacked. And then after 9/11, all that ISIS scary, they're going to come get us crap went away, except for a story here or there to keep it in the news or keep you a little bit afraid or tweak you. But the level of propaganda you saw leading up to 9/11 was gone. Now, why is that? It's because they didn't need to access that trauma anymore. See, that event created a compartment. Everybody's brain, without people even realizing it, this is a very natural thing, and they understand this. They understand how trauma-based mind control works. So everybody's brain that day created a compartment to encapsulate that trauma because it was so vast. And what they do every year, they understand this. And what they do every year with the media is they go and they access that compartment and they open the door and they allow the fear to come out. Just a little bit. They squeeze it like a tube of toothpaste. And they need a little bit of fear. That's what they do. It's trauma-based mind control 101. And you have to go research trauma-based mind control to understand what they're doing to everyone. Turn off your frigging television. Unplug your cable and disconnect the service and only use the internet. If you can't stream it, it's probably not worth watching. And most of the crap that you can stream isn't worth watching. Just saying.
It really was such a big event, wasn't it, in terms of trauma-based mind control? But thinking 14 years back, I think most people probably remember where they were, what they were doing, what they were wearing, and the events that they were seeing unfolding on TV or wherever they happened to be that day.
And here's the thing, 14 years and then 6 months ago, we had something called the Lone Gunman. Now, Popeye, you're talking about mind control, preparing people. That pilot episode put out by the makers of the X-Files, where it basically showed you planes flying towards the Twin Towers. Now, in my opinion, that was preparing us for what was to come. What's your take on that, Pop?
Well, that's like predictive programming. Turns out that a lot of those stories that came up for the X-Files and some of the stuff for the Lone Gunman came from Langley. Chris Carter admitted that. And Dean Haglund admitted that the CIA...
He's somebody we should get for Freaky Friday. What a fit he would be.
I wonder if he would come on and still do interviews. He'd be interesting. Dean's the blonde guy. He's the guy that had the long blonde hair in the Lone Gunman. And their pilot episode was a rogue agency or a rogue group of people inside the CIA and other agencies in the government hijacking an airliner, remotely controlling it, and flying it into the World Trade Center.
Go figure. And the reason I bring that up, Popeye, is because A, this is 9/11, we're talking about that, but also Rebekah and a lot of other people out there as well have been talking about the kind of swathe of 23/9 propaganda that has been in films and movies for absolutely years, and more so just recently. And of course, this has got a lot of people speculating that they're getting us ready for another big bit of woo this month, Shemitah time. What do you reckon, man? Are we just starting to read too much into this?
No, I mean, look, there could be something happening. I honestly don't think anything's going to happen this month. I think more so a lot of that stuff could be put out there, and this is here's a little woo for you before we go to break. I think a lot of that stuff is put out there to amp the fear on purpose at certain times of the year, especially right now.
Yeah,
We're
that's
living
right.
in a world, Joe, where you've got Facebook who openly tell you that they're skewing people's news feeds and things like that for the sake of social experiments.
They are. And, people devote energy and they put it towards a certain direction because that's where they're making it flow. They're almost directing traffic, I guess, in a way, is the best way I can describe it. But, you're right. It's almost like we manifest our own reality sometimes. And that's why, I've said from time to time, prophecies are meant to be fulfilled. Prophecy is if you do this, then this is the consequence. So it's not necessarily meant to be fulfilled. And consequently, just because it's a Shemitah year or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean it has to be bad. That's the whole thing. So it's where are they directing it, and where is the consciousness of humanity?
Don't think it's not interjected into humanity, into the consciousness. Okay?
Right.
Just saying, because they know that people are going to run with it and put it out there and talk about it, and that's all they need. Just remember that. Break sneaking up, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. Freaky Friday will return.
You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
We are TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
To the Freaky Friday that you have all been waiting for tonight. It's myself, Kev Baker, Big Marty, Joe Joseph, and Popeye from Down the Rabbit Hole. Now in the last section, I was kind of teasing you a little bit out there. Will we, won't we, get a surprise guest? You better believe it. So, welcome to the show, our good friend, fellow host on the network, and the best-selling author of now 2 books, Rebekah Roth. Welcome on this 9/11 special, and who better to bring on?
Yeah.
That was perfect.
The amazing Rebekah Roth is here. I mean, hey, Kev, honestly, this is like the all-star 9/11 cast right here, because the collective 9/11 brain power here is just I'm starting to melt. My brain's starting to melt from it. So it's good.
Exactly. The random number generators under Princeton University that did trigger pre-9/11 will probably be registering right now. And
That's
in
right.
true TFR fashion, we were talking mind control and mind manipulation before the break. And that has got Rebekah absolutely foaming at the mouth because she couldn't agree more with this. Rebekah, talk to us about this yearly ritual that we now go through.
Well, it isn't just yearly. If you listen to Fox, if you can handle it, I tell people to do it all the time because it's really important that people understand they're being brainwashed and programmed. The CIA uses that. Most of those people, remember I traced Barbara Olson right back to the CIA and the Mossad. And so most of those people on television, everyone knows Anderson Cooper is an agent and how they faked the Scud missiles. And so I think that people need to really understand that they are being manipulated and mind controlled. And when they start triggering that terrorist attack, 9/11, Islamic fundamentalist terrorists, we know that those 19 people were not on those planes in reality. And, for me, when I watch it, it's just like, oh, my God, it's like I'm watching people out there. I hope they aren't, but I'm sure they are, some of them, being hypnotized, being tricked into believing an alternate reality from where I'm living. And that's what they do with that. They bring you back to that day when we were, and listen, I include myself in that. I was in the industry. I was totally jet lagged out. And when I saw that happen on TV, I thought it was trick photography. As the day unfolded, I cannot believe this. I'd never heard of Osama bin Laden or Al Qaeda.
Tim Osman.
Yeah, I'd never.
Oh.
And I just thought, well, who are these guys, and how in the heck did they do that from a cave in Afghanistan? That's
Marie
with
Osmond.
a computer. I mean, the whole thing is so nonsensical when you step back and really look. And one of the things I bring up in the new book, Methodical Deception, is exactly this: mind control by the television set in movies. And, the people that are related to the real perpetrators of 9/11, they own the networks and the movie theaters and the distribution of the film. So they kind of have control of what you think.
Yeah, and talking
And,
of movies and stuff like that, Rebecca, I remember being 16 years old and just got up that morning and kind of watching the TV and stuff. And then I actually watched the footage of the second plane hitting the tower there. And I remember thinking, half asleep, is this a movie? What film is this? Because when the image of the plane hitting the tower, 16 years old, I wasn't awake. I was just part of the sheeple, let's say. And I even thought that was some kind of movie that I was seeing because it just didn't look real. It looked like some kind of CGI.
So the day it happened, I was on the USS Iwo Jima. And I'll never forget it because the communication system that I was putting in, it was one of those finer times in the history of, let's say, shipboard maintenance for the United States Navy. And the contracting activity that had gone and put this communication system in installed it upside down. So, like, right off the bat, it was a bad day. And so one of the electronics technicians from the ship comes down and he goes, "Hey, man, a plane just flew into the World Trade Center." So here I am. And the initial reports, because I remember it was a Cessna had flown into the World Trade Center. Mm-hmm. Because everybody's like, no, come on. First of all, it's closed airspace. Planes don't fly into New York City that way. They don't. Not like that, right? So we're thinking, okay, Cessna, something, okay, whatever. And then we found out, oh, it's a lot more than that. And then you got to see the second one happen, because by that time, we're like, watching the TV, and you saw the second one happen. And I got to tell you guys, up until about 2005 or 6, I was totally sold. I had no idea. I was all for, get those terrorists. Let's go. Let's go hunt them. Yeah, but no, it's funny because you don't realize how susceptible to the narrative that you actually are. And you got to be very careful about all of these events and what happens, because, man, do they use it to their advantage. Not only as a ritual, which, Marty, I totally agree with you. I think that's exactly what it was. But also, the after effects of such an event. Look at what has happened to this country and the world, for that matter, since 9/11. And historically speaking, I don't think we've ever seen a time period where you've had such a clampdown so fast on everything because of the fear, Oh, it's unbelievable.
When I first looked into this myself, I couldn't. It took me a couple of years to even, after everything, after the first month, because I was so closely involved. I couldn't see videos or pictures of it anymore. It would literally, I just couldn't look at them. And a couple of years later, the end of 2005, I started researching it again. And just looking into it because, I had looked at it I finally started looking at things and reading reports again. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And I was like, that's not what I remember happening. So I was there. I was a first responder that day, but I lived in New Jersey, right outside the city. They were reporting on things that were happening right over the sky, over where I lived, and saying that things didn't happen. And I was like, but I saw 2 F-16s come over my house at a specific time. My mother did too. If she were still alive, she'd be able to back this up. So there were things like that and other things. I started reading reports, and I was like, what? Why are they saying that they weren't even there when, yeah, they were. I saw them. So I know I'm not imagining things. Plus, there were a few other things as a firefighter I started to look at again. And because I had a year and a half of arson investigation and explosion investigation under my belt, I looked at things from that aspect, and I was like, oh my God. Immediately, I started seeing red flags. But because I wasn't able to look at it because of the emotional baggage it had created, the PTS it had created, right? Which is what they wanted. It literally blocked me. And as soon as I was able to get rid of that and deal with that on my own, I was able to look at it again. But that's exactly what that day was meant to do. It was meant to create that level of trauma, collectively, just like that's why they blew Kennedy's head off in the middle of Dealey Plaza. It was a twofold thing. One, well, it was a threefold thing. One, it was a ceremony called the Killing of the King. Two, it was a message to any president in the future that had any aspirations of actually being the president. And they said, look, we blew his head off in the middle of a public plaza. You think you're safe anywhere? You're not. And three, it traumatized the entire country. Like Beverly Oliver, the quote-unquote babushka lady. She was standing like 18 feet from the limo when he had his head blown off. She said to me, I lost my virginity that day, Popeye, and so did this country. That's exactly what that event was for. And 9/11 was the same thing. It was a ritual. It was done to traumatize this country, and it was done to push an agenda. And if anybody doesn't know what political agenda it was used to push, all you can do is open your eyes and see what's going on now. Our current reality would not have happened if not for 9/11.
Because we need to take the fight to the terrorist.
Look up
Just saying.
Just look up PNAC, Project for a New American Century.
Pinochle?
And Jeb Bush was one of the signers, and Marco Rubio is running around currently going, we need a new American century, and sacrifices have to be made. He's been saying this for over a year. I wrote an article about this last year. It would not surprise me if the GOP pick was Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush in some manner. Whoever's going to be president, vice president, doesn't really matter.
Or you just get the benevolent dictator. See, and then there's the other thing, too, because they're setting it up to the point where now, the 2010 decision of Citizens United basically assured that corporate money is what's going to win the elections every time. Unless, of course, you have that kumbaya moment, which I haven't seen. But that now, because of that, you've got people so disenchanted. You've got Donald Trump that comes out, and he's totally unfiltered. And he's also worth $9 billion, not beholden to the Koch brothers or anything else. But you have people clamoring now for a benevolent dictator in a country where that's not supposed to even be possible. And yet, that's what we have. Because if you look, he's saying all the right things. However, there are, deception isn't deception unless it's believable. And all you got to do is veer off just a little bit. And that's exactly what happens, So you can definitely see that these events are used almost as like waypoints on a map. And I'd say 9/11 was probably one of the biggest waypoints that we had. Of course, it's not the first time they attacked New York. 1993, they tried to blow it up, and they were unsuccessful. They put the bomb in the van. What was the guy's name? I think he's in a Supermax prison in Colorado right now. I can't. Hamdi Youssef, or I don't even remember what his name was. But
Randy Youssef?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
he's in the Supermax in Colorado, still to this day, and it kind of fizzled. Okay, it happened. Well, the building didn't fall down. Okay, nothing to see here. Go back to sleep. So they're like, curses. Oh, we'll try this again.
The FBI actually made that bomb.
Yeah, exactly. No doubt, dude. No doubt.
It's in court documents that they made the bombing of the first bombing of the World Trade Center. They made the bomb.
Well, they did everything. They did everything. I bet you they even drove it there for the guy.
They did. You know how they got caught? The dude and his attorney has the recordings. He recorded himself. Because he didn't trust the FBI. He was like, they're setting me up. So he recorded his conversations with the FBI, and you hear him going, you really want me to use a real bomb? This is the guy that's supposedly the bomber. And their FBI, is telling the FBI agent that's talking to him, is like, yeah. You can go find the audio on the internet. I mean, it's out there. This is all. Go look at the trial. Go look at. You have to actually do 10 minutes of research to go find this. But all this came out. Of course, the only reason why it came out was because the guy was smart enough to record his phone conversations.
Yeah, and good on him too.
Well, he's a tool, but still, thanks for being smart enough to do that.
Exactly, Rebekah. You have something. I'm salivating at what you have to add.
Well, it's after the 93 bombing that the FBI, in fact, did do on the World Trade Center that Rabbi Dov Zakheim, the comptroller of the Pentagon, his subsidiary company of SPC, got the blueprints for the towers. They did a lot of the, I'm sure, no bid contract repair work after that. So they had possession of the blueprints, so they knew exactly where they needed to place what to make those things completely explode the way those towers did. Just a coincidence, I'm sure.
A coincidence? I don't think so.
We don't do coinky dink pop.
No, not on the Woo show, not on Freaky Friday anyway. I don't do coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences anyway.
Yeah. Well, I often say if it wasn't for the good Rabbi Dov Zakheim, who now, after he left the Pentagon, after he stole that $2.3 trillion, misplaced it, excuse me, that he went to work for Booz Allen Hamilton. And, that's an interesting company as well, that and the Carlyle Group. And they're very involved in just about every rabbit hole you go down.
By the way, he was connected to the Romney campaign. And yes. And I can't remember exactly how. I had the article open earlier. I threw it out there, but it's on Federal Jack under the 9/11 archive section. If anybody wants to read the article, but you know who? And then Romney is like best buddies with Bibi Netanyahu. Like I couldn't make this up. So like you have dual connections there to the same evil thing. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, that's true. And that's the way it's been since for a long, long time. I mean, you can go back and read the Holy Blood, Holy Grail. They've been the kingmakers for a very long time. They completely control everything in this country. Now, people are starting to wake up to who did 9/11, and they're angry. This new book I have, it is angering people. When I do interviews, they get angry to learn that those artists are there with all those fuses. And now you got to keep in mind, those fuses can be used for electrical boxes or for remote control detonation. Now, they already had electricity in the tower, so they sure as heck didn't need them, and they weren't keeping those boxes on the 91st floor for 35 years. So why were they explosive experts from the Mossad, some of them? Why were they using those? Duh. I mean, you will still find people that will argue with that. I was called an anti-Semite today on somebody's YouTube channel for pointing that out.
Damn you, Rebekah. Damn you.
Can I just point out that Mossad agents have been arrested multiple times throughout the event of 9/11. Oh, and also since then, there are stories that go back to the invasion of Iraq, that during the occupation there, our forces were fired upon by Mossad agents dressed up as Iraqis.
Oi! That's all conspiracy theory. Oi!
It's documented. In fact, in one case, I wrote a whole article about it, and in one case, the Marines went out and the quick reaction team, they got them, and they beat the crap out of them. And when they arrested them, and they had them on the ground, and they were beating their heads in, they screamed out, "We're Israeli. We're on your side." Too bad. They didn't care, and they beat the crap out of them.
Let the beatings continue.
They arrested him anyway. They didn't care. Oh, it's the same thing, by the way, that happened on 9/11, where they arrested a van full of Israelis right by the George Washington Bridge. I heard them arrest them. I was standing in the command center in Giant Stadium, which is now no longer there. They demolished it. But where Giant Stadium once was, on that day, the New Jersey State Police had set up the command center there, and they were calling for all active duty and retired and volunteer firefighters to stage there. And then we were to go into the city or to bring victims out and start ferrying them to the local hospitals. And while I was standing there in the command center, I was standing in the radio tent because I wanted to know what was going on. And I was listening, and I heard them on the radio arrest the van full of Israelis by the George Washington Bridge. Now, I've told this story on air over the years, and people have called me a liar and said that never happened. Well, Rebekah, you and I did a show together, and I aired the audio from CBS talking about them arresting them. It's out there. You can go see this. There were 3 vanfuls of guys that were arrested. There were those guys. There were the dancing Israelis that everybody knows, right? The ones that were videotaping the event. And by the way, they were interviewed later on when they were back in Israel on a talk show, and they said, look, the fact is, we were there. Our job was to be there and document the event. Well, how the hell did you know the event was going to happen?
To document. Yeah, what did you, get somebody tell you? You might want to be here.
Did you have ESP? Yeah, did you have ESP? Or
was it like a freaking press conference? We're calling a press conference?
Well, that's the second group. And then the third one was a group of guys that had a van, a box truck that belonged to a company called Urban Moving Systems, Mossad front company. And Urban Moving Systems, on the side of this van, they had a mural of 2 of the Twin Towers with a plane flying into it. And supposedly, this van, they arrested the guys in this one because they had just detonated another van full of explosives. And there's audio of the NYPD saying, we've got these guys there. And they're pretty much telling them they're beating the crap out of these guys. They just arrested them. So just saying, Mossad was running around all over the place.
And then you've got the CNN reports that day that seem to have been forgotten and deleted or whatever, but you can still get them out there. And that is the reports of one of these same vans being stopped on the Jersey Turnpike, I think. And they said that there was 2 to 3 men in the vehicle and it was full of explosives. But conveniently, it disappeared.
Wasn't there a van as well, like a Yellow Rider truck or something like that, or a Penske truck that got, and it was a fireworks or something that they said? I can't remember, but there was also that as well. So, I mean, you're right. I mean, there were so many reports of that.
Here's another thing of foreknowledge, by the way. How about the trucks they found in the tunnels underneath?
Oh, exactly.
Trade Center complex. The dump trucks filled with gold that were they abandoned because they knew the towers were coming down. So who told them to get the hell out of there? The buildings were coming down because they were taking too long. And who was taking the gold in dump trucks?
Same guy that handed the script to the BBC, Popeye. Obviously,
well, it's like Die Hard, dude. Remember, was it Die Hard 2?
Yeah,
where they faked the bank robbery or whatever, or it was terrorism, and they're running around the city chasing bombs, and while they're running around, they rob a bank and they're stealing all the gold. Just saying.
It's amazing, isn't it, how Hollywood connects to all of this stuff. And when I found that Barbara Olson from supposedly Flight 77 had spent a decade there, and then I couldn't find what she did there. She just worked for HBO, our CIA. I don't know. I mean, she could have been an actress. She could have been sitting in a hotel room making that phone call that morning. And all she had to say was the passengers were herded to the back of the plane and that they had box cutters and knives. That's basically all we got from her. Because her husband sure as hell didn't act like a spouse who had just lost his wife by running to CNN and then lying about all the phone calls. And what he really did was screw himself up by saying she called from one of those air phones, because I think people started questioning cell phones not working. But American had deactivated all of their air phones on their 757s in January of 2001. So, whoops! That's why they left that. They left that out completely of the Zachariah Massawi 20th hijacker trial. Now, it'd be interesting, wouldn't it, to meet with him in prison and have a chit-chat? Because if there weren't 19, there sure as hell weren't 20. But he ends up being connected to a CIA agent's laptop.
Hey, Popeye, let's not forget also the put options being placed on the airlines.
Oh, yeah.
If you remember that. Yeah, Rebecca, I mean,
United
there's
and
just...
American. And by the way, that money's never been claimed to this day. Because now they're paying attention to that account. And if whoever claims that account, they're going to go after. So, but who knew to bet? For people that don't know, a put option is a bet that a stock is going to drop in value. So who the hell knew that randomly on 9/11 and 9/12 that the stocks, the price of American and United would drop because of this?
It was my good friend Larry Silverstein. Oi.
And let's not mention the 2.3 trillion that Rumsfeld let us in on the day before.
Well, that was my other bro, Dov Zakheim.
Flight 77, by the way, piloted by Hani Hanyor. Yeah, right. Okay. Sure. So Hani, we'll just say Hani because it's
let's for come on, you got to get the.
Well,
come on, do it.
It's for laughs because come on, the guy didn't pilot the plane. But Flight 77, I'm doing air quotes. It just happened to hit the Pentagon in the one spot that was reinforced to take missile strikes, and in the one spot where everybody was meeting to discuss the missing $2.3 trillion. All those people with all their evidence were in that area where the plane just happened to hit. But I'm sure that's a coincidence.
and also the maneuver that the plane took to actually hit that part. I think there was Pilots for Truth actually pointed it out in a video. They did like a kind of computer-generated demonstration showing how it was virtually impossible to make that maneuver.
Oh, absolutely. My brother, as a matter of fact, who had his pilot's license before, has actually challenged people. You know, hey, look, I'll pay for simulator time. Let's do this. Let's get somebody in there. Let's see him pull that off.
You can't. The wings would have ripped apart. Look, planes. First of all, let's get something straight. Planes are not made by like some external force. They're made by humans. They're not made by like some omnipotent.
Well, especially passenger liners, dude.
Get out of here, Popeye.
Do you have any idea, especially with all the research I've been doing because of Wigner into airline crashes and everything? I've been researching airline crash, like hundreds and hundreds of airline accidents. And I let me just tell you, okay, the structure of the plane is not perfect. There's a lot of things that go on that you would never want to get on an airplane again. I'm never flying again after all the research I've done. Okay?
Yeah, and as preface, can I just be honest with you real quick, Popeye?
Yeah.
You've proved that. How many miles have you driven this year?
Over 20,000 miles.
Just in driving all over creation and back.
Yes, all over the country.
And you didn't fly once?
Nope. The only time I flew, the only time I flew was I had to fly to Amsterdam last year.
Well, but you would have driven had they put an international bridge across the Atlantic Ocean.
I would totally drive across the Atlantic. It'd probably take 4 days. That'd be a trip. Like sleeping at a truck stop with like the waves breaking over you. Anyway, thank you for derailing that, Joe. But yes, over 20,000 miles I've driven this year. I will not fly. But that plane, just knowing like what a normal plane goes through with the structural integrity of the plane and then maintenance and everything else, that understanding that, like, it's a miracle that some of the planes flying regular routes don't crash. Okay, so when I see them trying to tell me that this plane pulled off some acrobatic feat that fighter jets are made to do, the plane would have torn itself apart. The rivets would have been ripping apart. I mean, the whole plane, everything. It would have been, and Rebekah backed this up. Pilots have backed this up. Impossible. So all these like flight professionals, Rebekah spent over 20 years flying around in planes. I think she knows a little bit of what she's talking about.
You know what's even worse, Popeye? The fact that these two super pilots that were flying towards New York took two planes and took down 3 buildings. It's amazing.
It was awesome. It's efficiency.
What's their thing?
That's called lean terrorism, Kev. Lean terrorism.
I love it. It's great.
Oh, that is crazy.
Rebekah, thank you so much because I know you are so busy today. Thank you for bringing all of this new information to light. And people, you can get the new book at www.methodicaldeception.com. Head on over there during the break, and we'll be back after these short messages, and we're going to be getting into some 9/11 number woo.
Real people, real radio. Wherever you are, make it TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
Side of radio lies ahead, and it just got better.
Oh, Joe, but talk about Freaky Friday. When Melissa and Aaron come on in the next segment, this is going to take Freaky Friday to the new level. And you know, it might seem like almost a hiccup, a repeat in the timeline. That'll become very relevant, though, as we move on. But before we get into some number woo, you like that, Joe? You like that?
Oh, that was excellent. Oh.
Let me welcome back the one, the only, our wanderer from the Kev Baker Show, Johnny Whistles. How you doing, man?
Doing fantastic, mate. Great to be back in the dear green place we call Scotland.
Nah, man. I don't know why you came back. I was so envious, Johnny.
You were in America, man. How could you say that? Whistles, come on, America, baby.
Yeah, I know, but your place is crazy just now, Joe. I think I'm safer in Scotland.
How did it feel to fly on 9/11, Johnny?
Well, see, that's the thing. Do you know what I mean? I've already been involved in that 9/11 thing and flying again, and it was quite freaky, but at least I got home.
Well, you see, here's the thing. Now we can talk about it on air, because myself and Marty were a bit scared to share with the listeners something we've probably told before on air. But Johnny, you were meant to be flying 14 years ago on that fateful day. And myself and Marty were thinking there's almost some kind of universal shenanigans going on here that engineered a situation that here you were, 14 years on, guess what? Flying on 9/11.
On the
Yeah, exactly. Because it was actually my ex-wife. It was her birthday, and we were going over to see my son. And we were flying from Glasgow to Boston, and Boston to LA. Now, our flight, Kev, I'm not sure at the time. It was around about 8:30, 8:45, something like that. But the only reason that we couldn't get the flight booked was because my daughter-in-law had actually forgot her grandma's maiden name, and we couldn't book the flight.
Wow. And that is why myself and Marty, Joe, we were sitting behind the scenes going, there's some kind of universal irony going on here. Something is at work. We've seen that collision system been taken offline, online. Nobody knows what the hell is going on.
Right.
And I didn't want to say at the time, but I'm just glad we've got Johnny back from the west coast of America, right here on the west coast of Scotland.
Me too, but you've always got a place in North Kakalaki there, Whistles. If ever you get stranded in America, you can always come to North Kakalaki.
Thank you very much, Joe. And I'll help Ange with the cats as well.
Oh, yeah. But, well, that's a whole other thing in and of itself. Good grief.
Oh, Joe's going to be building you a shack as we speak.
That's right.
Listen.
It's funny that you say, because yesterday, Kev, you remember, I was trying to ardently avoid flying on 9/11, and it was like, oh my gosh, everything that could happen to make it was. I was actually going through the airport terminal telling people it's my fault because all these flights were getting delayed. Because if you looked at the radar up and down the whole eastern seaboard, it was nothing but thunderstorms all afternoon. And of course, flights were getting canceled and delayed. And I'm like, it's all my fault. Sorry, it's karma. Why? Because I refused to fly on 9/11. Everybody's like, oh, crap, tomorrow's 9/11. We didn't even realize that. Ah!
Exactly. Between all the convergence of events lining up and the fact that MH370 probably flew through a wormhole, you ain't getting me on a plane for no money whatsoever, Joe. Not happening.
I kind of like flying in the aluminum cigar tube. No, I don't.
Was that the Illuminati cigar? Did you say Illuminati?
Aluminium. I'm sorry. I'll say it like the UK. But seriously, I hate to fly. Can't stand it. I avoid it like the plague at all costs. And if I was meant to fly, I'd have wings. No doubt. But it's always been that. It's not just because of 9/11. It's because I've always hated it.
Flying can be unavoidable. Like you found out, Joe, it's part of work. And, maybe the next time you go flying, it'd be a good idea not just to check the numbers of your flight, but check the numbers of absolutely everything. Now, last night, I went into a little bit of the research that Fritz Springmeier has done on the occult ritual ceremony of 9/11. Now, we're going to play 5-10 minutes of this for your, I would say, enjoyment, but it's going to absolutely melt your mind. Marty's dug up a bit of number woo. I'm sure myself, Joe, Popeye, and Johnny can add to this plethora of numbers that is about to be unleashed at you. Sit back and enjoy Fritz Springmeier.
It's not going to take that long. Now, I'm excited to hear this, too, because I haven't heard this talk either. This is all
Is that right?
Yeah, we appear to have lost audio there.
Police books, they give us a very in-depth idea on what they believe, and so we're going to look at some of that. And you don't have to take my opinion. I could care less about what my opinion is. It's what these people believe. That's what we're looking at today, is what do these people that are Illuminati believe? And how would that maybe relate to this whole crime of 9/11, right? I mean, when we're talking about a crime, what's one of the interesting things about it? What's the motive, right? Now, of course, we know that part of the motive is just simply greed, right? I mean, some of these people that I'm talking about here, Rice, she happened to been one of the directors of Chevron. Chevron was very interested in Iraq's oil, and then the others that connected to Halliburton and everything. We'll get into that. So definitely a motive greed, but why did it happen the way it happened? Exactly the way it happened. I think when you see what I'm going to present, you're going to go, oh, this is giving more of the motive behind the way it laid out, the way it played out. Okay? So there was a grandmaster. He died before I started formally investigating the Illuminati, but his daughter, who was one of the people I was helping out of the Illuminati, he told her that the whole world's a stage for the Illuminati, right? So I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. This should all have been put on a PowerPoint presentation. So you're getting it on sheets of paper instead of PowerPoint. But what is ritual magic? I'm taking this definition straight from them themselves. Like I say, I mean, this isn't my opinion. This is how these people think. So ritual magic, the definition, the art of changing consciousness at will. Okay, a change of consciousness. Interesting. That's what magic is. What's the purpose of a ritual? It's a vital part of the Illuminati life. It's used to control the participants' thinking and alter life. Okay. What's the elements of a ritual? Well, you use symbols, numbers, geometric patterns, and words. It would employ some form of worship, depending on which god you're worshiping that day, whether it's Lucifer or Satan or some god or goddess. It's going to employ some ode, some worship there. And then there's going to be a sacrifice, like a burnt offering or sacrifice lives. And they often use hypnotic trances, and it's done at a sacred site on special days. Okay? Ceremonies are carefully orchestrated with precision. So, I wrote an entire book on ritual sites, Illuminati ritual sites, so I have an idea of what kind of ritual sites they like. So what kind of ritual sites, or what kind of places are picked as ritual sites? Well, in general, they pick a sacred spot. This picture here is in New Hampshire, and it's an ancient Druidic site that that is used by the occult, used by these people. So this is Mystery Hill here in New Hampshire. But if we go outdoors, we can put a pentagram on the ground like this, and associated with the pentagram is a goat. Okay, that's very important in this whole thing, that you see that the goat and the pentagram go together. And then, if we would go indoors, and this is a picture, I know you can't see it very well, but we'll get to other pictures so you'll get the idea. This is a Masonic lodge, and in front of the Masonic lodge are twin towers, right? What are those twin towers? They have the name Joachim and Boaz. So this, when you look at this Masonic lodge here, this floor here that has the pseudo windows, the windows actually aren't windows. They just put them there to make it look like a window. Although I actually have seen like 1 out of 100 Masonic lodges actually has real windows, but generally they're just fake windows. And this looks like it's the first floor, but it isn't. There's actually a basement, because properly speaking, this lodge or this temple here has 3 floors. The second floor is called the Temple of Solomon. And that's this right here. This is the Temple of Solomon, and in front of the Temple of Solomon are twin towers. Okay? That's a standard that's replicated zillions of times in this world. Okay? So, Christopher Friedrich Nicolai, and I give his, when he lived, 1733 to 1811. He was a member of the Bavarian Illuminati, that we've been talking about. He is a Freemason and an intellectual. He was the handler / mentor of Adam Weishaupt. And what did he say? He described the sign of Baphomet, which is the goat, and the holy pentagon as the most powerful symbol of all ceremonial rites. Well, is that the case for Satanism? Do they really consider it that important? Well, here, the Satanic Rituals by Anton LaVey. What does he use in his book on satanic rituals? He uses the pentagram, which, if you understand, the pentagon encompasses a pentagram, and inside that is the goat. Okay? And again, here we see it being done in real life. We have the priest, the satanic priest, dressed as a goat, the goat of Mendes, in the pentagram there. Okay. Now, I'm probably insulting your intelligence telling you all this, because really this is probably common knowledge everywhere, because here on The Simpsons, we have them hail Satan inside a pentagram doing Hail Satan in the Simpson cartoon. So it's not like it's a secret. And then here we have the pentagram, and this is some satanic art here, which is associated with destruction of these buildings. And then here's a Masonic parade. These are Masons on parade, and they're dressed like a satanic goat here. They've got this really evil-looking, almost Halloweenish costume here. And then they got this goat here, and then this guy, and it looks almost like he's wearing a Shriner fez or something. This is a little bit closer of it, of this guy riding the goat. And then here are a couple Masonic postcards. Are you a Mason riding the goat? Here's the Mason riding the goat. And then, are you a Mason? The Grand Lodge in session. The Grand Lodge in session, and every other person is a goat sitting at the table. Okay? So now let's go to the other one. That was outside. We could put the pentagram on the ground and have the goat doing the ritual in the middle. Inside, we had Solomon's temple with the twin towers, right? So, and I've seen this replicated or pictures of this so many places, because in studying Freemasonry, you know, I got a friend of mine who knew I was researching all of this. He gave me a stack of old Masonic magazines that go back to World War I era, you know, and on the front of them are all these pictures of Masonic temples where you see the same thing that what I'm showing you here. So, you know, this is, I could show you 100 pictures, the same as what I'm doing right now. This is, if you're a occultist, this is like, duh, you know, but for the rest of us, we don't live this every day. So that's why I'm showing you, you know. Here's the J and the B, Joachim and Boaz, the twin towers. And then here's the altar, the Masonic altar. This is the Temple of Solomon right there. And then, and then this is a series of Masonic initiation rituals portrayed. And here, these are the initiations as you go up. The twin towers with the building behind. And then this is another Masonic piece of art. This is a storm. We've got the Masonic altar and the twin towers there. So, what we've just covered is three major symbols of satanic ritual: the pentagram or pentagon, the twin towers, and the goat. Okay? So let's look at the pentagon. Does it have anything connecting it to the occult? Very interestingly, and I know that there's out there on the internet, and I'm sure plenty of people that will stand up and deny that the Pentagon has anything to do with the occult. But consider these interesting facts. It was built on Hell's Bottom. That's the name of the place where they built it was Hell's Bottom. Wow. Yeah. It was a slum that they had to clear out. The people that were building it said that they were building it to fit in with the Masonic architect L'Enfant's original design in Washington, D.C. I was like, what? If you understand how Washington, D.C. was designed by this Freemason, it absolutely blows you away. I don't think anybody, at one point I was like, if I have the time, I'm going to catalog. There's like 80, 90 different occult symbols built into the street plans and the architecture. I mean, the beltway that goes around is 666 miles around, the Washington monuments and obelisk, which if you know what an obelisk is from ancient Egypt, I won't tell you the anatomical part that belongs to. But you look at it from the top, and it's a point within a circle, which is a very important Masonic and occult symbol. So, they're trying to build this to match the original architecture of, whoa, that's like putting a billboard saying, this is a cult, Now I really want to go back to DC. It was intentionally built with lots of fives. 5 sides, 5 acres, and in an inner court, 5 floors. And you might say, well, what's 5? So what? 5? 5 is the satanic number of death, right? That's very important in Satanism. 5 means death. And so they chose 5? There's a lot of other symbology, occult symbology here. Wait till I get to all of this. But you might, and then some people say, well, it was just an accident that it happened that way. No, the original instructions to the man who was building it were very clear. They were written to him, this will not exceed 4 floors. So what did he do? He built 5 floors, even though the instructions said only 4. So he just went around his instructions. And the person that signed off on all of this, that approved it all, was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who's the Delano family is an ancient Illuminati family, and he was a high-ranking 33rd degree Freemason. So he knew what all this symbology meant. In fact, it was FDR who chose the exact location of the Pentagon. Most of the people wanted to put it somewhere else, and he insisted that it be put exactly where it was put. And where the exact location of where it's put is really strange, because remember I was saying that there's all these occult numerologies and all this other stuff? The exact location of where it is fits in with all kinds of occult things. Too many to go into in this talk. It was intentionally built using the ancient megalithic yard, which is 2.722 feet, which was used in Stonehenge. The ancient Druids had a unit of measure, and there's a lot of other henges in the United Kingdom besides Stonehenge, and they're all built with using that measurement. And that's the measurement that they used in the different links connected to the Pentagon. So it's like they were trying to set up a Druidic ritual site almost. And then I've got final choice of location designed by Illuminati bloodline Freemason FDR. Also helping him was his uncle Frederick Delano and General Brehon Somerville. Now, the Masonic 32nd degree, what is its symbol? Is a pentagon. And what is that representing? It's representing a knight, a soldier who's aspiring. So someone who is a Freemason would look at the pentagon and see that it symbolizes an aspiring soldier, because if you'd gotten to the 32nd degree anyway. The location and size of the pentagon forms numerous occult patterns with Washington, D.C. The star formed by the pentagon is pointing directly at the White House. So there's too many things to say, oh, this was just a coincidence. It is like, this is beyond coincidence that so many things get built into it, things that wouldn't normally happen. I mean, how many of you have built your house using the ancient megalithic yard? You know,
I heard that they broke ground to start construction on September 11th.
It was 60 years before the plane supposedly hit it. 60 years exactly. On 9/11 was when they started building the Pentagon.
So, no coinkydink there, eh? And Marty, when it comes to the Pentagon, a lot of 5s turning up there, and we learned that 5 is a death number. Now, you've even turned up something even more Wookiee than that.
Yeah, like you say, it's definitely referred to as a death number in scripture and old religious texts and stuff like that. But if you also look at the references to Satan in scripture, for anybody who looks at that kind of thing, it's mentioned 55 times. So very fascinating indeed.
And that presentation goes on for about 2 hours, folks. Now, I thought I had it at the bit where he gets into all the number woo. I didn't quite, but we got some of the idea there about some of the ritualistic aspects to 9/11. Listen to what he talks about when it comes to setting up the kind of area that you want to carry out these magical tricks. You had the Pentagon, or the pentagram, you've got the 2 towers, and you've got Solomon's Temple, all of which were quite easily covered that day. Wouldn't you agree, Marty?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And a big one with the numbers is, of course, the 11. And a kind of obvious with the towers being an 11 and September 11. And September the 11th, you know, there's 111 days left to the end of the year. September 11 is the 254th day of the year. 254 equals 11. There's so many 11s. I mean, New York City is the 11th state. New York City itself has 11 letters. Afghanistan, 11 letters. The Pentagon, 11 letters. I mean, it just goes on and on.
Absolutely fascinating. And Popeye, after the break, will be taking us into even more deep woo from another brilliant researcher on this subject. And talking of Popeye, Pop, there's a bit of a shout out in the chat room about Fitz's beard. And I heard a dirty rumour that he's trying to copy your look.
No. I think Fritz earned his beard.
Well, what about the other rumour then? Is he really Rebekah Rothstein's dad?
Oh, God.
You have to deal with this kind of stuff, man.
I don't. You know how I do? I just ignore it.
Oh, folks, we're obviously having a laugh with that one, but join us after the break when we get into some Mark Passio woo on the 9/11 subject. Don't go anywhere. And then after that, we'll have Melissa and Aaron Dykes, and we're going timelines.
Frequency Radio.
The wicked ones obviously under heavy Masonic influence.
And hopefully that is us back with a nice, fresh, clean connection. I'm going to pass it straight back to Popeye because he is time critical on this one.
Okay, so since you guys didn't hear this, I'm going to play a clip from the interview I did with Passio about 9/11 and the occult aspects thereof. It goes back to, I think, like 2012. Just go look up the occult aspects of 9/11 in my archive section over at PopeyeRadio.com. But for lack of time, let's get right to the audio. This is Mark talking about the ritual itself that happened that day and what was going on.
Tarot card that represents the entire tradition, because this is the book of truth. This is the book of the goddess tradition, ultimately. Card number 2 is probably the biggest symbolic card when it comes to the tarot tradition. And that's what the destruction of these buildings, again, was all about. You'll see the Tree of Life actually depicted behind the goddess figure in the number 2 card, the High Priestess, in the major arcana of the tarot deck. She's holding a scroll that says Torah, which is law, because she represents the knowledge of natural law, the understanding and application of that knowledge, which is wisdom. Okay, she is the goddess of wisdom. She is depicted here as the Isis figure. This would correlate to the Egyptian tradition. This is one of the ways that Isis was depicted. Of course, you can look at the goddess as any goddess throughout the traditions of history that have depicted her and described her attributes. This is Mary of the Christian tradition. This is Semiramis of the Babylonian tradition. This is Isis and Hathor and Ma'at of the Egyptian tradition. This is Aphrodite and Athena of the and Diana of the Greek and Roman traditions. So it doesn't matter what name you're calling her; it represents the same thing. This is the understanding and application of natural law principles, of the universal spiritual laws that exist in the cosmos, that we are bound by, and that we need to come into a deep understanding of and apply ourselves to that understanding through care. This is the sacred feminine care tradition. This is the heart-based knowledge that we really need to bring ourselves into alignment with. So it's natural law, it's care, it's higher consciousness, it's all of these things. That's what the goddess represents. It's an aspect of ourselves. It's getting in communion with the higher aspect of ourselves. So she is, of course, the middle pillar. She's the middle way, the most direct route from base consciousness to higher level awareness. Therefore, she's the middle pillar, once again, okay? And she's seated between the other 2 pillars, the pillars of thesis and antithesis, the white and black pillars. The B representing Boaz and the J representing Jachin. That's the pillars of the Temple of Solomon. Again, we'll see that again in the Freemasonic tradition. But it's an extension of the Kabbalistic tradition, which is really the root tradition that Tarot and Freemasonry are ultimately derived from, because it's all the same universal knowledge. Ultimately, all of these traditions are about the communication of natural law principles to people. So what the destruction of these buildings is about is destroying the goddess principle. It's about destroying the sacred feminine energy. It's about destroying true care. It's about, creating apathy. It's about, destroying the understanding of higher level law. It's about keeping people in fear through controlling their emotions, putting them into trauma through the attack on the sacred feminine emotional qualities of the being. And that's what the destruction of these buildings is ultimately about symbolically. And we see the symbolic correlation. We look at the name, right? This is said to be a attack on, it's a terror attack, okay? 9/11 was done by terrorists. And when you hear some of the people who were actually part of the orchestration of this event, like George Bush Jr. and Rudolph Giuliani, say the word terror, they say it like the original name of the goddess, Terror, or Terra. Terra is the goddess of the earth. The earth is called Terra, okay? The original goddess name in the oldest goddess traditions is Tara. So this is an attack on the earth, ultimately. We have a war on Tara, a war on the earth, a war on Tara, a war on the goddess. And they're deliberately not saying terror. It's a green language perspective. They're saying it that way for a deliberate reason. They know ultimately what this is about. This is about destroying the people of the earth. Because ultimately, if you really look deep enough into it, this is not of the earth. This is directed from somewhere other than just the physical earthly domain. It's a dimensional directive that this is all ultimately being served up to. And you can believe in that or not believe in that. That's your personal decision or choice. But there are higher dimensional aspects to what went on this day, as far as I'm concerned. And again, this is about feeding on that energy. The entities that ultimately these sick, twisted, psychopathic, dark occultists worship they consider that they're not in this dimension, that they're in a higher dimension, and they're offering this up as food to them. So the war on terror is actually a war on Tara. And if we understand that name came from the goddess tradition, which was all about service to truth, the goddess's name morphed in linguistic terms throughout time to ultimately come down to us as the English word truth. It was Tara, then Tarut, then Taruth, then truth. Because the goddess represents the knowledge of right and wrong. It's conscience, conscience, common knowledge. It is the knowledge of cosmic spiritual law, universal laws that are in place. That's what the goddess tradition was ultimately about conveying. And it does this through the tarot tradition. That's what the tarot is about, the communication of natural law, just like the Kabbalistic tradition is about. And as we will see, the Freemasonic tradition is also originally about that. All of these traditions, again, have perverted aspects to them and uses that the dark occultists are actually using in their favor. The original intent of these traditions, of course, is the uplift of consciousness, the uplift of man through the understanding of those higher laws. And again, that is the goddess tradition as well. And that's why they had to bring down Building 7. They couldn't leave that standing because it would be representative of the dynamic of care still being present symbolically. That building represented the goddess principle, the principle of care and truth. That's why we have a 9/11 truth movement. We're trying to resurrect that sacred feminine energy of care, to get people to care enough to bring the truth forward. And ultimately, that's what this ritual is about devastating, is about demolishing. They had to bring that building down to complete the ritual. It could not be allowed to remain standing because, again, that symbolically would have represented the goddess is still alive. Care is still alive. Truth is still alive. And they want to destroy all of those things. Okay? So let's look at some other tarot symbolism related to the event. The two towers themselves have symbolic significance in the tarot tradition. You look at card number 15, which is the death card. It's the black rider on the white horse coming to mow down the king and the priest. Well, this is government unifying through their dialectic, the old world order and the new world order. Okay? They're bringing in the new world order through the destruction of the old world order, which was kings and priests, but the new rider is government, who's going to be the king of the world because people don't challenge or question authority. And he's death. Ultimately, that's death for humanity. It's enslavement and ultimately destruction. He's bringing in the inverted five-petaled rose, the inverted pentagram, the destruction of care the black flag represents. Okay, this is annihilation. He's already destroyed the king, and he's getting ready to destroy the priest. What this represents is he's already king. You know, he's already the secular ruler, but he wants to make himself into a religion, into the world religion, is what the rider death or the symbolic idea of government is trying to make himself into. It's not only a one world government, it's a one world religion that worships the government as their god. Okay, and money is ultimately their god that directs this entire process. So he's bringing this banner for the real God. Government is actually doing the service of the real dark order, which he's carrying the banner for. And again, that's an inverted pentagram. So that's the symbol of Satanism. That's the symbol of Satan. The idea of perpetual conflict, perpetual opposition, perpetual strife and suffering. You don't have to look at it as a person. These are conceptual ideas that represent things going on in the physical world. You see behind him, behind the horse, behind the priest, there is, or pope, there is two pillars in the background with the setting sun. And ultimately, that's what these pillars represent. These are the two pillars that are being destroyed to bring one thing into existence. Again, thesis and antithesis have to be annihilated to create the artificial synthesis that you want to bring in as your ultimate agenda, as your end game. That's what the Hegelian dialectic is ultimately all about. And again, people should understand also when I refer to the Hegelian dialectic, it isn't that Hegel himself was evil or came up with this idea. He recognized this principle and simply wrote about it. And it's a dark application of the principle that he recognized and coined and put it into a philosophical framework. It isn't that he invented this dialectic. It's been going on for thousands and thousands of years. You can see examples of it throughout history. He just basically kind of coalesced it and codified it in writing. And then people have, ascribed the term to him, the Hegelian dialectic. But again, it's not as if he invented it. He's simply describing it. So to go back to the symbolism on this card, this is about the dialectic being unified in the end. And the person who is doing that is the death principle, representing total control of government and replacing the institutions of king and religion, of state and religion, with one world government. That's the rider of death on the white horse carrying the banner for the ultimate expression of evil. The destruction of care, which is, again, that inverted five-petaled rose on the black flag. So those pillars herald that time. This is a time card, I would say. It's telling you this is what's happening at the time that that new world order is being brought into reality, is being birthed into form, into manifestation. Is these pillars? The energy is going between these pillars, and it's ultimately setting. It's bringing them down. It's bringing the light down. Okay, a clear, direct symbolic correlation to the 9/11 event. For those who understand the symbology of this tarot card, another tradition we need
it's
to
literally
look at.
Behold a pale horse.
Exactly. Yes, bringing death, bringing the rider death. And that is the New World Order, as the dark occultists refer to it. I call it the dark New World Order, because we're in the stage of transition right now, which is a period of choice. That we have a choice whether we're going to let this dark world order be ushered in or not. We can create a true, positive, light New World Order based on truth, justice, knowledge, care, all the things that we really want to see come into fruition. The New World Order is two things. It's not just one. There's a positive outcome, and then there's this dark New World Order, the negative outcome of enslavement and perpetual suffering and strife, and a world that is turned into a hell. So the prison planet, so to speak. So let's look at the Freemasonic tradition, which is encapsulated by the first degree tracing board of the entered apprentice degree. This would take so long to break down in its entirety that we don't have time for that. So let's just look at the pillar aspect of it. The pillars represent the ability to climb to a higher level of awareness in this card. The checkerboard floor of the house represents base consciousness or unconsciousness, not knowing, ignorance, not knowing the difference between right and wrong, not understanding natural law. And the pillars represent the way that we have to unify our emotions, represented by the pillar on the right, the lunar pillar, the pillar of Boaz, and the pillar on the left, the solar pillar, or the pillar of strength. These are the emotional and action qualities of the individual. Our emotions and our actions need to come together and align with our knowledge. So as we think, that's the middle pillar, the pillar of wisdom, having knowledge of, how the laws of nature work. So we feel, which is the B pillar, and so we act, the S pillar. Okay? They're being brought together so that they're all one. Thoughts, emotion, and action aligning into oneness.
And by the way, this dovetails into what Mark and I were talking about on Friday with the Matrix movies Decoded, where Trinity, Morpheus, and Neo were thought, emotion, and action.
Same thing. There is nothing new under the sun. Everything is ultimately trying to tell us the same thing about what's really going on here on Earth and within ourselves. It's all an inward manifestation. It's an inward manifestation, and then we're projecting that outwardly and creating that external manifestation of the things that we have to experience in the physical reality to teach us the lessons that we need to learn. And the Masonic tradition is ultimately, in its true, original, esoteric intent, about the communication of natural law and about true morality and bringing our actions into alignment with that higher level understanding. And again, I would not make the claim that that's what the modern lodge system of Freemasonry is about. This is an ancient tradition that has been ultimately degraded through time.
And perverted for their own uses.
That's correct. But that doesn't mean there's no original tradition that is worth deeply studying and coming to a deep understanding of, because of how it will uplift your knowledge and how it will uplift your way of being in the world to bring that modality of action into harmony with nature's laws.
I noticed on that card that there's the 4 directions, north, east,
That's
south,
correct.
and west,
Yes.
but they're not like you would think. Normally you would think that they would depict north at the very top, but
Right.
it's not. It's actually depicted on the left-hand
This
side.
is because ultimately this tradition is all about the light, which is coming into knowledge of truth, and that is associated with the sun, which is in the eastern direction. The sun rises in the east. All of the symbols at the top, the sun, the all-seeing eye, and the moon, ultimately represent the sun, which is the light, which is knowledge. It's the light of the Creator, okay? And whether we have that developed or not, this is it really depicted. If you turn the tracing board on its side to the right, if you turn it 90 degrees to the right, I've broken this down on my podcast at whatonearthishappening.com. You go to the podcast section, look into the sections on Freemasonry, and I have shown an image of this turned to the side. Basically, the floor of the house represents Earth. Okay, the checkerboard floor is the meridian and latitude lines, the latitude and longitudinal lines of the Earth, and the 3 pillars represent the path of the sun between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, with the middle pillar representing the equator. And the lowest point of the sun at the winter solstice at the Tropic of Capricorn is the moon, okay, when you turn it on its side. And that represents not being in knowledge or being earthly identified as the base of the ladder. And then as you go up the ladder, you cross the point of balance, the equator, gathering more light, because now the sun and the day and night periods are equal. Okay, and then you go past that. That's the point that you start caring, ultimately care, which is that middle figure. That green figure in the middle represents care, or the goddess again, the middle pillar. See, she's the feminine initiate on the pillar, dressed in green, the color of the heart chakra. And the key there represents the care is the key to everything. It unlocks the stargate that leads off the earth, out of earthbound identification, and ultimately off the prison planet. You can't get off that floor of the house without getting that key. And the key is symbolically depicted dangling by a thread, because care is dangling by a thread in our world. We have to take it into our hand, if we want to unlock the stargate, which the ladder leads to, which is about cosmic illumination into the light of truth. True knowledge, true wisdom. So,
hence why they call themselves the Illuminati, which means the enlightened ones.
Right. Well, yeah, they're not really the Illuminati, the enlightened ones. There are true illuminated ones on this planet, and I say that's the people who really understand what's going on here, know the truth, and know the way out of this prison society that we're working ourselves into. They're the real Illuminati, not these psychopathic, twisted, so-called elite. I've said they're not the elite of anything.
Yeah, no, they're just a bunch of control freaks.
Right.
And you are correct when you say that, at least I know you are, but especially in my estimation, you are correct when you say that there are people out there that know the truth. Unfortunately, the psychopaths in power outnumber those people, and it's up to us to fill the rest of the ranks with the illuminated, waking people up and turning this around and ultimately getting off of this prison planet.
That's right. So this tradition is all about consciousness. It's all about building a better individual that is in alignment with truth, is in alignment with the laws of the cosmos. And this picture represents the Temple of Solomon symbolically, and that's the human brain and heart, the system of the mind and the heart coming together as one. See, the sun, soul, and moon, Solomon, the sun and moon coming together, uniting the masculine aspects and the feminine aspects, or in other words, action and emotion, being united to climb the ladder representing the middle pillar, the pillar of wisdom. That's what wisdom is, when you unite those two seemingly opposite principles, bringing together the thesis and the antithesis. The thesis is action, the antithesis is emotion. You're bringing them together to really form true wisdom, which is the unification of the two, bringing your actions into alignment with what you know to be true and what you feel to be true, and then you're doing those things. That's what the real synthesis is all about.
Would you say that the story of King Solomon is an allegory?
Absolutely. It is absolutely an allegory. People who think that this is all about a physical structure do not understand the allegory whatsoever. And the Ark of the Covenant being housed, the essence of God being housed in the Temple of Solomon. It's about the divine spark that exists within all of us being housed within our mind and heart. And if it really needs to reside there, if it's really going to reside there, we need to unify those things. We need to bring our actions into accord with what we know and feel to be right. It's all a symbolic allegory. The people who take it literally have no understanding what is trying to be communicated in those books of the Bible.
Would you say the Grail is the representative of the sacred feminine?
Absolutely.
Like the womb?
The chalice is the sacred feminine womb that actually holds the blood of the sun. Okay, this is the energy of the light, the knowledge that we have to take into ourselves in an act of communion with that truth in order to be reborn, to come out of our deadened state of awareness, the lack of consciousness, and that lack of consciousness is represented by this checkerboard floor in the symbolic tradition of Freemasonry.
All right, I'm going to stop it there. You have to go listen to the whole interview. Go to PopeyeRadio.com, look up the occult aspects of 9/11, and sit down and listen to it. Actually, if you go to federaljack.com, you can look it up. All the slides Mark was talking about is there. It's important. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Hour 3, my family, my brother and sister, Aaron and Mel, will be joining us. This place is just getting packed with more brain power.
This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
We are TFR.
Truth Frequency. The very final hour of what has been an amazing Freaky Friday so far. Tonight I'm joined by Joe Joseph, Popeye, Big Marty, The Wanderer, Johnny Whistles, and now I am pleased to say we're joined by our good friends, the people over at Truth Stream Media, and two people that are literally freaking out about what they question reality is right now. Who am I talking about? It is, of course, Aaron and Melissa Dykes. Melissa, are you a bit more kind of composed than the last time I spoke to you? Because you were questioning whether night even follows day.
Nah, I'm more composed.
No, I'm not. I'm not more composed. Actually, I'm worse.
Tell us what's going on. Tell us what is happening, Melissa.
It's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Ever since I was little, my mother used to read books to me. And some of those books were the Berenstein Bears. I say Steen because I never knew if it was Steen or Stein, like Frankenstein. But it was one of the two. And I had my own children, and I read them also those same books. And I just went into my kid's room and pulled one off the shelf, and it says Berenstain on it. Stain. And I do not remember it ever being spelled that way, ever. In fact, I remember as a kid asking myself the question, do I pronounce this Steen or Stein? I've never seen an A in this word, and I've now called every person I know, all of my friends and family locally here, and my mother. None of them remember an A in the name of these books. I feel like my brain has melted and reformed and then melted again. That's what's going on right now.
Oh, and guys, this is something that we have covered before, and some of the listeners out there might be thinking this is like deja vu, and how apt that is for a topic like this. Now, the Bernstein Bears isn't the only glitch that is going about in the Matrix right now, because there's another couple. And Mel, Aaron, you were talking to me about one from a very, very famous movie indeed, and I could not wrap my head around this, and I still think you guys have got to be wrong. Tell us what's happening with Star Wars.
It's not Luke, I am your father.
Yes, it is.
Anymore.
Yes,
no,
it is.
It's not.
It always was.
Luke, I am your father.
Stop it, Joe. Oh my God.
Luke, I am your father.
Aaron?
No, apparently didn't happen.
No, it's no.
Schwartz be with you.
Oh, God.
Okay, now, guys, I'd heard about the Bernstein, whatever bears you want to call them, but come on, you have got to be kidding me, Aaron. I grew up listening to this.
It's no, I am your father. That's what they're saying now. Actually, you go watch it. It's no, I am your father. They had a thing now. It's apparently not mirror, mirror on the wall in Snow White either. It's magic mirror on the wall, which doesn't make sense because in the book from the 70s from Disney, it says mirror, mirror on the wall. But
because that's what it was.
Apparently, if you go back and watch the cartoon now, the old, crappy looking cartoon from the 50s, or charming, however you want to look at it. It's Disney, so I always think it's crap. But it now says magic mirror on the wall. And I guess somebody just sent me an email today, because we're working on several 9/11 videos, and I understand that this show's probably been 9/11 themed, and I didn't mean to crash it and start talking about freaking children's books. It's just that somebody sent me this email, and they said, this is the biggest issue for me right now that I cannot wrap my head around. It's worse than everything else we're talking about, because it's so perplexing. It's harming me psychologically. These inconsistencies, and there's a whole bunch of them. It's not just the ones that we've mentioned. Apparently now Field of Dreams is if you build it, he will come, not they.
Who is he? A one-man baseball team?
One-man baseball team? The one baseball player guy?
Yeah.
The one that gets me is the spelling of dilemma. That definitely used to have an N in that, and Lucky agrees with me. Any of you guys remember an N in dilemma?
Nah, that must be a British thing. We didn't have that.
We have a different
version of the Matrix over here.
Myself and Anne have definitely got that. There's even websites set up to that one.
Oh, I've seen that too.
Well, here's the thing then. Here's the thing. And I think this kind of ties in to a lot of the research that you guys have been doing recently around particle accelerators. And then that opens up things like temporal access, time travel. Are we looking at some kind of time travel and altering the timelines? Am I totally mad?
Or like an alternate dimension that happened. They always say that there are, all these alternate time paths that are happening all simultaneous. Did we fold over into a different one where everything's basically the same, but things are kind of like you just start looking around one day and you notice, hey, it's a little bit darker outside than I remember at 7 p.m. And oh, by the way, it's Berenstain Bears. And you know what? That is so. First of all, I'm just telling all. I will admit to the whole world right now. I was a tomboy. I used to climb trees, and I used to crack jokes, and I used to be a pain in the ass.
Smoke weed every day.
No, not smoke weed every day. Not as a kid.
I had to throw a little
If I'd
comic.
have had access, maybe, but no. I'm saying, look, okay. If something had been called Berenstain, I would have made fun of that for a billion years. I'd still be making fun of it today as a grown adult. I have that side to me. Ask Aaron, it's true. I would still be making fun of that to this day. My kids would have made fun of it at the time. If that had been the name on the book, Stains, come on, you guys. I would have made fun of that.
Well, here's one I haven't heard before, and I can definitely buy into this one. And Lucky has said, what if it's almost like a long-term psychological brainwashing operation? They've been years in the planning, and it's to actually fracture our minds, fracture memories.
I guess that is possible, because you can't just say that this is a mass hallucination of hundreds of thousands of people. I couldn't find one living person today, and I didn't call people up and then pre-script them of what I was going to ask. I just called them up and I said, hey, you remember the Berenstain Bears books, right? How do you spell that? That's all I did. And I probably you can ask Aaron. We called several people, okay? I've talked to multiple people in the time since I talked to you guys. I cannot find one person I know.
5 people. It's almost enough for a scientific poll.
I'm just saying, I can't find one person that remembers it being spelled this way. I can't find one. Not anybody. Not my kids. We called people, but also, I asked my own 16-year-old over there. I said, hey, I read these books to you. Spell it for me. And she's in AP classes. She's a very smart child, okay? And she immediately rattled off the spelling. No A. It's not like I told her what to do there. She just spelled it, and she spelled it with an E. Because I can't. Have you found one person that you know at all that spells this with an A or can remember it being spelled that way? I can't. In fact, I went on eBay and started, because I probably did the same thing that everyone does. I immediately went on and tried to find vintage copies of books or something to prove it to myself. And so on eBay, I found right now for sale a vintage Berenstain Bears lunchbox. And the lunchbox in the picture on the auction says Berenstain with an A. But the comic book store that sold 30,000 items, it has all this feedback, is spelling it in the title with an E.
Yeah. Oh, isn't it?
So
it's unbelievable.
This must be one big mass hallucination that just encapsulates hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people across the world.
What if one small thing was changed and it had ripple effects across time?
Well, see, Popeye, this is kind of the theory I'm starting to work on. We've heard of things like the grandfather paradox, where if you went back, killed your grandfather, you would cease to exist kind of thing. And imagine the energy that must be required to actually jump in time. Well, you'd have to think that has to dissipate somewhere, maybe in the form of consequences. Every action has a direct and opposite reaction, right? Sure. But what if they've found a way to almost like siphon off that energy into what they regard as the most harmless way of altering things, like, say, the name of a book, the odd word here or there, but it's still dissipating that energy. Now, that would account for the fact that some people still have the memory of what was really happening. And you just have some people who are conformists, and they'll just agree with whatever the majority say anyway.
People who get cochlear implant surgery, deaf people, incredible technology that can allow them to basically hear again. They have the surgery and they can hear, but they'll say things taste different now. It just tastes a little different. It's just kind of weird. I don't know if you know anyone who's had that surgery, but I've heard that.
It's a very common thing. I guess it's a common side effect of the surgery itself.
I don't know what's going on, but it's within the realm of possibility. Obviously, you can tinker with the brain. Probably a lot of people saw Clockwork Orange. You just kind of mess with some of the inputs there.
What if it's an unintended consequence?
I know they can do this remotely using EMF frequencies. They don't have to have you in brain surgery. They can do it.
But what if them beaming us, like all that crap they hit us with, right? Like all the stuff that we've talked about over the course of years that they beam right into our heads, and then CERN playing with. What if there's an unattended consequence that they're causing glitches. I mean, how many times have we seen, even in their own fiction, in different shows and movies, usually like these end of the world movies, half the time it's, oops, it's a consequence of what we were doing. What if that these glitches are a consequence of that?
That's what it is, Popeye. That's what the mystery wine object at CERN is. It's actually the original book with the real name on it.
Maybe it goes back to the debate about when I see red and you see red, do we really see the same wavelength that looks like a red color? Or do you see blue and happen to think it's red?
But
you
this
perceive
is,
it's red.
I would say that normally on some things, like the Mr. Rogers Neighborhood theme song. I go, Aaron, sing the Mr. Rogers Neighborhood theme song. And he goes, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. No, if you go watch it, he says, it's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. This neighborhood? I don't remember there being a this. But that could just be because I was little and everyone started saying the, and it just kind of transformed that way. That is not the same as this book right here having a letter in it that is just not in my brain. What are you doing?
I was going to say, what are you guys like watching a movie at the same? Are you multitasking at the same time?
I was thinking about it. Yeah,
he's trying to find a clip to play for you.
That's awesome.
Don't
just shows the power. That just shows the power of the Dykes dynamic duo there, because they can do that.
I want to know if he says it's Frankenstein. Where's that moment?
Well, can you wait till the
You're
break?
watching Frankenstein, are you?
He wants to wait till the break now.
You can't just start watching movies while we're on the radio.
I didn't even know you were going on the radio. You had me setting up equipment.
Well, hey, it's all good. It's all
There's
good.
a TV show out there, right? We've been talking about 9/11 tonight. And one of the best TV shows that covers this kind of thing that's been on in the last few years was something called Fringe. Now, in that, there was alternative universes. And on one timeline, they popped through, and lo and behold, the Twin Towers were still actually standing there. So do we think that there may even be different timelines going on, different universes, just slightly removed from ours, but with, like Popeye said, shove on a magnet with 100,000 times the power of the Earth's own magnetic field? Are we shifting ourselves in between different timelines?
Wow, could we? Wow, just think about that for a second. Holy crap! Because I've never even considered that, Kev. What could we be? Using all this electromagnetic energy. Could we be the entire Earth, perhaps, be shifting between different parallel timelines?
Well,
what was that movie we watched? Lunopolis or something?
Yeah, it was about that. Well, two things about that, though. First is, great, I can't even remember what the two things were. That
First is...
I bet you the other Melissa's rattling it off now.
Okay. I remember. Okay, the first thing is, I have seen videos where it has been demonstrated that when they crank CERN up to the highest thing, and they keep saying they're going to crank it up to the max coming up on the 23rd, right? But they've already been cranking it up to the max, and it's been topping out on the charts on their own site. And I've seen videos on that, and they've shown that even though there's no solar energy that day, that the sun is relatively quiet for all the stuff the sun does, that our magnetosphere is like freaking out and being pulled all over the place. And
yeah,
have you seen that?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it kind of looked like that. Everything's all nice. The hair's flowing back, right? Just flowing back. Look at that. Oh, look at that. The Earth's got a great haircut, right? The golden locks are flowing in the breeze, and then all of a sudden they turn CERN on. It's like,
it just looks like spaghetti that got dumped on the floor.
Yeah, like the Earth stuck its finger in an electric socket.
Right.
And so you're absolutely right. I mean, there is certainly something going on here.
Oh, really?
Oh, I did. I went there.
You're so punny.
Yes.
It's terrible. It's not even. But so that is going on. But there was the other thing I was going to say, and I can't remember it, but I'll try to remember it in a minute. But the other thing I was going to ask you guys is, have you noticed in the last few weeks weird things in your own life that you can't explain? And actually, before we get to that, I remembered the other thing I was going to say. I read somewhere that people disappear that it's known on record, and somebody was saying that this is a scientific fact and they had studies and stuff, and I don't know if that's true or not because I did not go follow it, but they were arguing that it's known that 2 out of every 10 people, I think, randomly blink out during the day and they don't realize they actually disappear. Like, this is an argument that I've heard people make, that we just don't realize it. But I know you guys know too. I know you've all experienced this, where you set something down in one place and you walk into the other room and you come back and it's somewhere totally different than where you put it and you don't remember moving it. Have you know you've had that, right? We've all had that, or is that just my house is haunted?
Never once, Mel. Never in a million years.
Well, that's great, Joe. You must live in the magical universe where that doesn't happen. I don't live
Actually,
there.
I do. I live in an alternate universe. Isn't that right, Popeye?
Is it Berenstein Bears where you live?
When you go to Joe's house, as soon as you cross over the state line, the road turns to crap. Your cell phone dies, and suddenly you hear, and it's like a vacuum all around you, and you're now in the Joe zone.
Yeah, it's a unique experience, that's for sure. Yeah, for sure.
I appreciated Joe's
I would like to hear Popeye's memory. Do you or do you not remember the Berenstein Bears?
No, I agree with you. There's a lot of weirdness going on. That's why I said I wonder, like, and it's interesting how mentally we're all on the same page without even saying it out loud, because I was thinking of Fringe, too. That's where I brought up the unintended consequences. The whole point of that show was their two realities were merging together and creating chaos in the one, and like it was ripping the world apart. And it was all due to them dicking around with some time machine or interdimensional thing that Walter, the father, had done.
Because they made that initial piercing of the veil, Popeye, and that's the language you're hearing coming out of CERN.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Opening the door.
So, oops.
Please, you make it sound like rape. It's science.
Oh, well said. Well said.
Everyone loves when you say rape, honey. Okay, but what I was going to say, and I'm going to go ahead and put it out. It's Woo Friday. And
It's Woo Friday.
I'm done caring about what other people think about how nuts I am. I think we all know how nuts I am. But the truth is that in the last few weeks, for sure, and because I've been actually paying really close attention, but definitely in the last few months, but absolutely 100% definitely in the last few weeks, I have noticed things are moving that I did. Like, I will set something in the same place. I set my computer every night in the same spot because I don't want to sleep with it in my room next to my head where it can fry my brain. I'll wake up the next day and it'll be in my room. I didn't bring it in there. I didn't get up in the middle of the night and walk around. I would have known if I'd done that, because also I've been having a really hard time sleeping. And Joe, I know you know I'm not the only one here.
And just so you know, Mel, because we've been talking about this, the last 4 nights have been absolute torture. Every time I lay down, I can't get to sleep. Like, literally, I haven't had real good. I've maybe very minimal sleep in the last 4 days. It's gotten that bad. And I'm not like, I'm not being like, kind of like the placebo effect. Think, therefore I manifest it. No.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think it's, it's like, it's
from this.
I will be exhausted and I will lay down to go to sleep, and my brain literally will not shut off. And it's not because I'm thinking of stuff. It's not because I'm just so, thinking of so many things. I just have so much on my mind. I can't get to sleep. I know what that is. I mean, we all have that sometimes. This is different. It's like my brain won't shut off.
It could be tied to the fact that the Schumann resonance of the planet is raising. We're not even meant to be functioning at the frequency that the planet's vibrating right now.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is it changing? Because I have to tell you that I have heard a sound, and I've become very cognizant of this sound, especially in the last few weeks. Like I'm saying, all this stuff is happening lately is very weird. And I like to think of myself as a decently rational person. I mean, when it comes to logically trying to critically think about things, it's not like I go, oh, my house is obviously haunted. There are just ghosts everywhere. Oh, my gosh, I need to call like the ghost hunters over here or something. But it's like a noise. It's like a background humming sound that sounds like a television set was left on in the other room on mute. So you can hear the sound of the frequency of the TV being on, but not any actual voice or noise coming from it that would be from the programming. And obviously I'm not just leaving TVs on in my house, but last night when I was trying to go to sleep, last night was hell for me. So I sound probably nuts.
Here. It was awful.
You had that whole travel thing.
You would think I would just like fall on my face when I got home. But no, I couldn't. It was awful. I mean, even to the point where I took like 3 melatonin. I'm like, just trying to get to sleep. No. So then I had just that kind of like that heavy feeling, but my brain just would not shut off.
Well, Joe, I mentioned to you earlier on, I'm physically looking for glitches in the Matrix right now, right? And that's because the other day, I went through my normal routine. I get up, I get ready for work, I phone a taxi. Now, the taxi company here, what you do is you phone them back and it says your taxi's on the way. So I go outside, I usually have a quick cigarette while the taxi's still coming. I get to the front steps, I'm lighting my cigarette, just looking at my phone. Nothing about, place is quiet, playing away on my phone, looks up, what's there? Taxi. So I think, I didn't even hear that. I didn't hear that coming. So I gets in the taxi and I says, mate, I didn't even hear you arriving there, man, I'm sorry about that. He said, wee man, I watched you walking down the steps and lighting your fag, I thought the taxi must be for somebody else. It was there the whole time, but I didn't even see it.
This is what I'm talking about. Weird things that have been happening lately. Weird things have been happening lately. So you and I and Joe maybe are the. What do you think, Pop? Have you had weird things happen lately, Popeye?
Trying to think. I've had so much.
Have you had any Klingon taxi drivers like Kev?
Honestly, I haven't had a problem sleeping because I've been physically exhausting myself doing a lot of like physical exertion during the day. But I know somebody else that has not been able to sleep and their brain has just been going and, like almost like what you guys were describing, the exact same thing. So interesting. Just,
yeah. And Ange is having the same problem as well. So it's just, it's not just me and it's not just, it's weird.
What about Marty, Johnny? You've noticed anything? I mean, I know us guys rarely sleep anyway because we're working off US time, but there's some glitches going on, man.
Why's it got to be like that? Why's it got to be US and whatnot?
The joys of broadcasting on a US network. We love it, America.
Kev, you only need to look at the picture that Aaron posted in the chat where the Bernstein bears. But the person who's actually putting the advert up obviously doesn't have to look and see what the spelling is and spelt it Bernstein bears.
Exactly, because it's just so natural for them that's what it is.
In their mind that's the way it's spelled. This is what I'm saying.
That's the thing. Is like, was it always that way?
This is not a mass hallucination. It's not a mass hallucination. I really do think this is because they are literally screwing with the fabric of time right now.
Well, I think you're all batshit crazy is what it is,
well,
yeah.
You know what? I would be glad to wake up tomorrow and find out that I'm just batshit crazy. I've been wondering that for a long time anyway because the world is so screwed up right now. But the other thing is lately is that, and because you and I have been talking a lot, Joe, and it seems like you'll call and it's like we know what the other person's going to talk about.
We already know what we're going to talk about because I'm like, how about it? And you're like, wow. And with vice versa.
We're all syncing up. Like,
right.
Just like Popeye said a minute ago when he said, I was thinking of the Fringe also before you mentioned the Fringe. It's not even just like that. Now it's to the point where, gee, I wonder who's going to call. And then the phone rings and then I know who it is and then I pick it up. It's this kind of stuff and it's happening over and over and over. Because, and today has been really weird today. I don't know. Stuff has been randomly, like whole things have been deleted off my computer today that are just, I know they were there a minute ago and like a whole section is gone. Now that could be, I guess, the NSA just paying me a nice, lovely visit on 9/11, but I don't think.
Or perhaps you just haven't observed it yet.
I've sat and watched whole things disappear. It's weird. It's like
you have a Windows-based machine that you're using, and
yeah, that's also perhaps. But why right now is this happening? It just seems it's like the never-ending story, and the nothing is here, and it's sucking things out of reality.
Look, I don't,
something weird is going on. It feels weird.
That's what I mean. Everything feels weird.
Have you guys seen the Dark City movie?
No.
It was
Dark City. Go watch it.
Dark City was pretty much the non-blockbuster version of The Matrix. It came out like a couple of years before. And basically, it's run by some kind of aliens who are in body hosts. But at night, when the clock strikes midnight, all the humans fall asleep and they rearrange their lives. They put rich people in poor houses, and poor people are suddenly
it's a big social experiment.
Dining tables. Yeah. and they frame one guy as a murderer by putting him in the circumstances. And he goes to visit his uncle, and he's like, "Uncle, I have these memories of Shell Beach. Where's Shell Beach? I've always gone to Shell Beach. I really want to go there." He can't tell. I couldn't quite tell you how to get there. When was the last time you remember it being light outside, Uncle? No idea.
Can't remember.
Oh.
You should see that movie.
And you know what, guys? Philip K. Dick, the science fiction writer, believed all this and said that we actually live in the 1st century AD. And all this just runs parallel to it. So join us after the break, the very last section of what has been an unbelievable Freaky Friday. Sometimes I wonder how we're going to top the one that went before, but we always seem to manage it. Now, we've been going to Bernstein Bears. Let's go to Bluestain Pigs. Joe! What's happening, man?
One question, Dr. Frankenstein.
Apart from that question for Dr. Frankenstein.
He's still watching his movie. Okay, so there's a couple of interesting things that are happening.
I found it.
Hey!
Eureka!
And there was great rejoicing. In British Columbia, we have blue-headed bears that are baffling people, yes? A photographer on his drive home stopped at the side of the road in British Columbia to take a picture and a video of a black bear with a blue head. Aaron Smith said he was driving home last week on Highway 7 in Mission when he spotted the bear with the unusual cranial coloring. Smith posted the video to YouTube and Facebook. Says, what I've learned from this situation, if you're a photographer, always have your camera and zoom lens with you. Now, this is one aspect, but wait, there's more. Because the IFL Science site has an article that came out today saying, why the hell is this pig's flesh bright blue? And this is from a ranch in Morgan Hill, California. Saw a wild pig roaming the brush. They decided to shoot it. Ding, 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 ding. Take it home for meat, man. Now, after transporting the pig,
I don't need roadkill that's blue.
Exactly. After taking the pig back and draining the blood,
King do that?
He would totally do it. Come on, what does that matter?
He's probably got a recipe for it.
It's probably like Romulan or something like that. But it's
sorry I asked.
So the pair cut it open. The pig cut open the pig, ready to skin and portion it, only to find that this wild boar was hiding something quite unusual below the surface. And the pair was shocked to find that the fat was bright blue. So they cut away the skin. The fat was bright blue.
It looks like a bad movie effect.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, this looks like Photoshop. I mean, I know it's not, but it looks like.
Yeah, and they both just happen to be on the West Coast, and they just both happen to be in the area where they're exposed to radiation from Fukushima, and radiation causes mutations like that. So, sorry to be doom and gloom, everybody, but
if that was the case, then how come pigs over in Japan ain't jumping about looking like LGBT posters?
There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff going on.
You're going to tell me there is one of those pigs? I want it on the show.
He's about to tell you that Fukushima has turned us all into Smurf. We're merging with the Smurf dimension.
Yes. Popeye's got the height knocked off.
Yeah. Oh, yes, he does. And you're not far behind there, Shorty.
You're not far behind, so I wouldn't talk shit. Okay, keep your mouth shut over there, Scotland.
Oh, I speak for the whole of Scotland. How cool is that?
All top.
God, I wish that was true, Kev.
Oh, me and my 5 million Wookiees, we're coming to get you, Popeye.
You're done.
Ballsy
this
on
Wookiee
radio.
army is going to come and take you out, baby.
If I get stuck, I've got the ninjas.
Kev gets all ballsy on radio, but in real life, right? Some 15-year-old kid comes up to him on a skateboard, and Kev's like, hey, you can't skateboard. The kid's like, F off. And Kev's like, okay. He just puts his head down and walks away. And he comes on air and he's like, you're a dick, Popeye. Oh, I'm only busting your balls. You know I love you.
I love you too, bearded one.
Cry yourself.
Bearded one. It sounds like more in real life that Kev doesn't notice when taxis have been sitting next to
I know, skateboarders. I'm thinking to myself, Mel, when was that? I missed him.
Kev would have taken the skateboard and been riding it through the mall himself.
I'm a criminal-friendly security guard.
I guess
Knocked
so.
it off.
Well, on a side note to all of the weird everything is, I don't think it's not just me. I'm just noticing it and I'm admitting it to myself that this is not normal. The things that are going on lately are not normal. But I've seen people also engaged in behavior that's also just not normal. Just, I don't know. I'm saying I think if you search within yourselves and really think about the last few weeks and months of your life, there seems to be a quickening or some kind of something that's happening right now. And I don't know if it goes back to the video that Joe played for us how many weeks ago now about CERN affecting your soul or whatever, where the guy was talking about how they're going to fire up all of these particle accelerators. But when they fire up just CERN and it does that to the magnetosphere, if they're actually firing up a whole bunch of them all over the planet at the same time, I can't imagine that combinatory effect isn't worse.
Exactly.
And these people who are running these things, they admit they don't know what the hell they're doing. They admit
exactly.
They thought they were going to kill all of us with the A bombs when they thought half of them thought they were going to ignite the atmosphere, and the other half thought they were going to crack the Earth in half, and they were like, "Well, let's push the button anyway." So they do it with CERN.
I mean, why not? You got to push the limits, right? Otherwise, you're stuck.
I don't know if CERN explains the picture I'm seeing in the chat room of this blue flesh right now. But Lucky has come through again because this blue bear, Joe, turns out there is actually talk of blue bears in Inuit folklore. So the Eskimos talk about the blue bear.
Wow.
I don't think they meant it kind of like that, though.
You
mean
they didn't mean the big bear in the big blue house?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Was it really blue, though? Was it really blue?
My Berenstain Bears book has a big brown bear. This is the B book. And a blue bull. If I come tomorrow and the bull is brown and the bear is blue, I'm done. That's it. My brain will melt and it will be gone and I'll be through.
Maybe it was a vegan bear and it only ate blueberries.
See, now you can tell that Whistles has been to California for an extended period of time because he's talking about vegan bears. Just saying.
But in a strictly experimental, theoretical sense, couldn't you just alter the wavelengths? I mean, the color's just a wavelength, right?
Okay.
So you're saying, but how would you change the letter A on these old vintage things that everyone's brain we all don't remember it that way?
I don't know. You got me on that one.
Frankenstein. It's going to be Frankenstein.
Well, what if with CERN they accidentally, like in the show Fringe, right? They did something, and maybe it was accidental. Okay, but maybe they did something that had an effect, a ripple effect, on both sides. And chances are, if they did something and they opened a hole, in the ether, and they ripped a hole in space time itself into another dimension, whatever they did in this dimension, it probably had an equal effect of whatever sort in the opposite dimension too. So. Could it have been that even if it was just something very small, could have been something as simple as a small particle or something getting left behind over there, or something that had some sort of ripple
mess
effect.
with it.
It's Monsanto's Frankenstein butterfly effect, right?
Well, I'm just gonna.
It could just have been DARPA turning up at the Pentagon and saying, "Look, we can demonstrate. We've done it." What was the name of your favourite book when you grew up? And they would all have rattled off the Bernstein Bears, and then they would have gone, "No, check again." There you go.
Probably been more Dr. Seuss.
Did you say you had a Frankenstein sound clip?
I have one question, Dr. Frankenstein. That's Frankenstein.
Uh-huh.
I thought, it's not Frankenstein. Not yet. They haven't changed it. I'm just going to throw this out there. We interviewed someone having to do with the Montauk Project about a month ago. How long has it been now? And he straight up told us, and obviously you can believe whatever you want about that. I personally tend to believe a lot of that story is cover for other stuff the government's doing. But he told us straight up that there are particle accelerators under the ground on Long Island where there are time holes that they're just going all the time. They just leave them open. They're going all the time because they use them all the time.
Well, I believe it's no accident they probably chose that location, Mel. They probably realised that was one of these natural vortices that do occur on the planet. There's even one up in Canada somewhere where if you stand beside somebody, it changes the height that you actually look. And it's a mad optical effect that occurs because of this vortex. Now, if you add in a super woo particle collider there, know what you're doing, maybe you can manipulate that and control it.
Yeah, and there are particle accelerators in Canada, and what's really interesting is that the Queen has gone there and visited some of them, and I think that's in itself very strange. Does the Queen just go visit college campuses all that often?
Well, actually, more often than is disturbingly possible. It's just most of the kids don't come back. Oh, I went there.
Ah, you did. Yeah, she's a beast, but I thought it was really weird that she was specifically going to visit these sites. Because she seems to be about, I don't know, like a bajillion years old. So, and they say that the guy who stuck his head in the beam, didn't they say his one side of his face has never aged?
That much is actually documented. I mean, that much is, yeah.
So I don't know, but she's going and visiting these places, and it just seems to me like, why would the Queen take time out of her busy Queen schedule doing Queen stuff to go visit a particle accelerator lab in Canada?
Well, I mean, it's like a geek wonderland. So, I mean,
she's not a geek.
Wouldn't you want to be going to like the geek mecca of the world?
Listen, she wants to be there for the arrival of the Chittahootie.
Glass and metal and stuff.
I'm barely convinced she's a human being at this point. So geek is like, it's a really high level.
She needed to step out of her skin for 15 minutes and back.
That's probably it. Yeah, okay. That's more like it.
Diana from V, she just unzipped herself. Stepped out, took it off, got out, and was like, "I'm going through the porthole, you idiots. Stay here and watch everything." You know, I wonder if that's why they moved that whole thing. The what do you call it? I wonder if that has anything to do with what they're doing out. What's that lab that they just moved from that island out off of Long
Island?
Yeah,
out Island to Manhattan, Kansas.
I wonder. I wonder what's going on with that. I wonder if that has anything to do with any of this. I wonder if like they're worried about some sort of reaction from dicking with the energy.
Federal Reserve, the federal, what was it? The New York Fed moved its operations.
New York Fed moved to Chicago in the same month that NORAD moved back into Cheyenne Mountain, and they're moving everything inland.
Like, do you think that's what I'm saying? Like, it kind of makes you, and that's an island. It kind of, and full of like really nasty diseases. It makes you wonder if they're afraid of like some sort of repercussions.
Here's the kicker, though, Popeye, because for every bit of energy that goes out the way from CERN, it goes down to the core as well. So we can sit and hope that if there is doom on the way, it goes down the way to their bases.
Well, we were talking about the vortices.
Wait, let Popeye finish what he was
saying.
doing.
It's hard to know.
I was just going to say, I have to admit, I moved inland because I kind of like saw this a few years ago. Like, if there's a tsunami where I live, and then I looked on that map where if the New Madrid fault went, and I looked on in Florida what was left, and I was like, okay, I know where I'm moving. So yeah, I have to admit I moved inland and north because a little bit just in case. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Go on, Aaron.
Sorry, I don't know if it's the delay or if I'm just rude. I don't know. It's hard to tell when people are talking. I was going to say, Kev brought up the vortices. I heard about this a little while back. Very interesting. Anybody know which family has a lot of land and a big special structure in the Grand Tetons?
Probably the Bushes.
It's the Rockefellers in this
I knew
case.
it, so I didn't.
They started a big national park there. But I found out that the Grand Tetons is apparently the center vortices of a large structure known as the Earth Star that has
How
quite
many
a
is that?
few. I think it's
Well,
like
you see, some of
seven-
these points, Aaron, will probably line up with the likes of the Bermuda Triangle, I would imagine.
Just here, see.
This is in the American West, but if you look up the Earth Star, the Grand Tetons is the center point of, I think, 17 natural vortices on famous lakes and mountains and special points. Anyway, just a side note.
But it's not a side note, because this is the kind of energy and technology that the ancients were just okay with. They knew all about it. They were tapping
What are
into
the
this
odds
kind
that
of
the
stuff.
Rockefellers would buy a bunch of land right there, of all places?
Exactly.
Right
And
in the
myself
middle
and
of it.
Popeye
They
always talk
know.
about Cecil Rhodes. And where did Cecil
Exactly.
Rhodes live, Popeye?
Dude, where did he get buried?
Go for it.
Africa?
That's got to be some
Crossroads.
significance.
Hinterland?
Yeah, he got buried at a crossroads in Africa down by like the base of a mountain where supposedly reptilian humanoids that the local Zulus call the Chitahuri come in, flick in and out of this dimension, and he got buried there. So, look, it's not really about what I believe. Apparently, this rich guy who left all of his money to the formulation
Built
of
him
a
a dig made
secret
of pure
society.
gold. Sorry.
No, see, Aaron and I are on the same page.
Are you guys a little bitter about that? Come on. Say it.
What
Are
a
you?
dick that guy is or was.
He's my hero. You're knocking my hero, man. I mean, come on.
Go hang out with him in the Chitahuri.
The Rhodes Scholars, yes.
Are you seeing this map that I just put in there? Maybe you should put it in the chat for people listening on the chat. See how it
Definitely
lines
doing it
up
now.
to every single one of these rivers and mountains? See how it's like a central point to all of
Yes.
that?
I'd like to hear
much
more
so.
on that, yeah.
And then they had a huge empire thing they put right in the middle of it. Yeah, that's crazy.
Just a coinky dink, personally.
You know,
Yes.
you've got Nick Begich, who talks about the mind control and stuff like that. His father, I believe he was a senator, and he went down in an area of Alaska, probably one of these points here, where it's said to be another natural vortex, and they built HARP there.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a coincidence.
Of course it is, Popeye.
I'm sure it has nothing to do with like playing with the ley lines or
Go back to sleep.
the energy of the earth.
Go back to sleep.
Remember that movie, that crappy movie Core or The Core, or whatever the hell
What do
it
you
was?
mean? That was not a crappy movie, first
Yeah,
of all.
but-
I haven't seen that
It was,
movie.
it was horrible.
I've enjoyed watching it myself, from time to time when I had nothing.
No, come on, dude. Really, it sucked.
Yes, it did.
Begich's father went down. He was the first representative of Alaska, and he went down with Hale Boggs, the only dissenting member of the Warren Commission. He's the one portrayed in the JFK movie who's doing the jive talk from Louisiana saying, that Doug couldn't do the shooting. He was a decoy. Remember that character? That's Hale Boggs.
Just like I said, Aaron, just coincidence.
Oh, you want to hear something? You want to hear a slap in the face? If you go down and you go down to New Orleans, if you go check out where Garrison's office used to be and where the FBI building and all that stuff was, where he
Mr.
invented-
Garrison.
that's all gone. Where Guy Bannister's office that's all gone. The property was turned into what is now a federal courthouse. And you know who it's named after?
No,
Bob.
but I went down there and I tried to find that stuff, and I was really confused trying to match it up. And yeah, it's
gone.
obviously have changed it.
That courthouse it's all gone, and the courthouse is there, and they named it after Boggs. So
Was it ever there, Popeye?
Oh, that's nice.
Well, you want to talk about the most epic slap in the face, dude? You know what I mean? I mean, that's when I saw that, I was like, what?
No, the epic slap in the face when you get JFK turning up to a State of the Union address or something like that. That'll complete it for me.
Well, that was
Elvis is at number one when we wake up in the morning.
That's funny.
Nothing
That would be a
excites
glitch
me.
in the Matrix. If he shows up to he would be close to he'd be like 100 now, wouldn't he? Or 101?
Actually, in my old job, where
How old's the Queen?
there's so many videos and books sent in the mail. There was a documentary claiming that JFK shot himself, and that was the real conspiracy.
Wow. Somebody took the time to try to make that case?
Can I ask you a question? Where's the video to back that one up? I mean,
His name was Dallas.
It's on the
Goldbug
bookshelf
Sr.
next to my Berenstain Bears collection.
wow.
Meanwhile, on a different timeline.
JFK's just driving and his wife is nagging him and he can't handle it.
He's like, I can't take this anymore. So he shoots the governor first, right? Or Connolly, and he's like, I can't take it, and blows his brains
I
out.
saw
Yeah.
one that argued that it was
don't know.
actually Jackie who was MK Ultra'd into doing it. I saw
Yep.
some try to make that case.
I've seen some interesting things.
But I mean, you could slip him a Mickey then. You don't need to do that in a car out in the open.
Same.
No.
You know?
Yes, you
know,
do.
We could be looking at the symptoms of literally two timelines or universes blending into one.
Or the
Now,
sim-
what that culminates with, I do not know.
or
I
the
guess
symptoms
it
of
would
other
send
things.
a message if you had JFK in Dealey Plaza and some voice was saying, "Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself." And he was like, "No."
That's funny.
I guess
And
that's
his
bad
skin-
humor for the 9/11 anniversary. I apologize.
No, this is the kind of energy that we need to be.
Can you?
I don't know. Is it the
Yeah.
kind of energy we need?
Yes,
I
it
think
is. Can you actually please wrap it up with an impression of Webster Tarpley talking about Ron Paul?
Please.
Person, and it was one of the funniest things I've ever witnessed in my life.
Yeah, you should have been there. It was really funny.
Dude, it was awful.
He, are you
Seriously.
going to do it?
I don't know.
He doesn't know he's
If
on
he
the spot.
stops
Give him a
laughing,
minute. Let
I'll
me just
give-
tell you. I want to tell everyone something really quick about 9/11, though, since I
Sure.
came and I totally hijacked us with alternate universes. 9/11. Let's go back to that for a second. I went there to Ground Zero for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and they have turned that place into the Disneyland of suffering. It is the most ridiculous, fake movie set sideshow I've ever seen in my life. There are cops, there are guards everywhere ushering people around like cattle. People are doing that whole cube worship thing around those footprints that look like they're just continuously sucking everything down into the pit of the earth. My camera, when I filmed that, it looked like the sunlight was being sucked down right into the center. It was some kind of optical illusion on my camera. It was really creepy. And everyone's just merrily skipping along like, yay, I'm going to pay $24 so I can be fed the official lie. And it's almost like they like it because it's somehow, it's like a security blanket to have it reinforced to them that there's nothing to see here. Move along. Don't ask any questions. It's almost like that way they don't have to face the truth. And they're all happy and skip. People were smiling and laughing their way into it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And there are these kiosks everywhere where you can get more information and take a tour. And they have boxes where you can put your money, like little clear donation boxes. And just little kids were running up, stuffing money in there and going, Mommy, I donated. And the mom's like, yay, that's so great, honey. We got to keep this going. And it's like, why is everyone so? And then the Freedom Tower and Building 7 are towering over the whole place like two. They look fake. They don't even look like real buildings. They look fake. It's the creepiest thing ever. And then next to it, where the transit center is, they've built this what looks like a giant dinosaur whale bones or something that you would see in a Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome movie or something over the transit center, which a guard told me is supposed to be a dove of peace. Looks nothing like a dove of peace. Okay, it looks like a weird dead skeleton. And I kept saying, "What is that thing?" Because as soon as I saw it, I was horrified by it. And we even went down underneath it, and underneath it on the ceiling, it looks like a spine is running along the ceiling. It's the creepiest. You know what it's called? If you go look at the map, Oculus.
Exactly.
Oculus. It's like the all-seeing eye. It's the most creepy, occultic, weird mass ritual of lies.
But if you look at that bizarre structure as an eye, maybe those bone things are like eyelashes. But if so, that eye is closed.
Yeah. And there are signs every. Huh?
I have a weird structure to throw at you guys. Let's see what you think. Since you're talking about weird structures, in downtown Detroit. There's like a. I don't know
what's not in downtown Detroit.
It's right there by the water, and right on the other side of the water is Canada, and it's this huge. It looks like a Stargate. I guess you could say an art. I don't think it's not like a fountain. It's like I don't want to say a statue, but like a structure. I have pictures of it, but it's round. Okay, and it's like two. It almost looks like two horns, but they're arched and they're almost touching. There's like a little bit of space in between them. I have pictures of this thing, and then on the ground, leading into the center of it, is a Fibonacci spiral.
Wow, maybe it's a wormhole.
No, well, it just looks like I don't know, like what the hell would you call that?
More
when
the point, what
something's
about
made out of metal, but a
Baphomet
sculpture.
they erected in Detroit? That's more worrying.
Well, it's like huge. It's this huge. I have pictures of it. It's on my Facebook page too, and on Instagram. It's this huge, like Stargate sculpture with a Fibonacci spiral, and I think it's called Ascending, if I remember correctly. Something like.
Oh man,
this is what I'm saying.
I'm going to
all
send
of these
pictures
things are
of it so
weird.
you guys can analyze it.
Yeah, I want to see it.
That's just to interrupt you. You made me think of
Oh
that.
no, yeah. Well, I just want to tell everyone, if you decide to go to Ground Zero anytime soon, just note the fact that there are signs everywhere that say that you will be searched at any given moment at the discretion of the 9/11 museum people, not the cops, not the NYPD, at the discretion of the 9/11 memorial people. And also, there are signs everywhere that tell you about the rules of the place. And the rules, first and foremost, are no loud speeches, no demonstrations. You're not allowed to hand out any literature. I mean, there's a whole list that basically says your First Amendment rights end as soon as you step onto the property. So just know that in the place where the terrorists blew up people because they hated our freedom, you can't go there and show those freedoms off in the place where we were supposedly attacked for those freedoms. Just letting you know.
Forget it.
Yeah.
And now we got about
freedom.
I know, Joe. We're almost out of time, and I was trying to think today how we go a little different because we covered 9/11 last night. We covered it last week. And just looking at that mainstream coverage, you could feel the dark energy. And I thought, well, if we keep it kind of light, almost Hanger 1.8-ish, take the kind of nastiness out of it, then
let's bring a little
we'll be
light
different.
into the place,
Exactly.
huh?
And I think it's resonated with all the listeners out there, or as they're now called, the Wookiees. And we've even got a Wookiee in Argentina called Sid thanking us for another amazing show.
Marcelo as well. It was just fabulous to know that we can, help contribute and maybe kind of break us out of that. I don't know, that dark energy that looms
trauma-based mind control.
Yeah,
I'm a Wookiee.
Wookiee, and
you just made Kev's life right there.
She did.
As soon as I get off of here, I'm going to finish editing this tour of the Ground Zero site that we are going to take everyone on our YouTube channel. So,
that is
if you want to
awesome.
see that, go to youtube.com/truthstream.
And of course, you can find them over at truthstreammedia.com, federaljack.com for Popeye, kevbakershow.com for me. Joe, where can they find you?
Thefreedomlink.net.
Oh, there we go, folks. So until next time, wherever you are, make it TFR and stay tuned for the Geos.
And do not touch the dial.